Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. It's January 9th, 2023. We're at 6:06 according to the clock on my phone. So we're going to go ahead and get ourselves started up. If there are any students on attending, could you please raise your hand so that we can make sure that we record your participation or your attendance? I don't see any hands up at this time, so we'll go ahead and move on. Okay, so agenda item number 1. Can we take roll call? Victor, can you do that?
John Barbera.
Here.
Vic Christensen here. John D'Amiglio is excused. Dan Dixon.
Here.
Craig Goldfarb.
Here, Victor, before you go forward, you gave me my credentials and you put my name in it wrong.
I sent you a new Zoom invitation. You should be able to go in and rename yourself right now. If you hover over your name, and then there should be either a 3, depending on where you're doing it, 3 dots or a more.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. But you should have a new invitation now already.
Okay.
I'm going to mute myself. I have a call from Gwen.
Cynthia Gagne. Don't see her on either side. I'll skip Gwen for now because Ray said he just had a call from her. Melanie Lebrac.
Here.
Kelly Miller.
Here.
Ben Norman. Don't see him either. Thomas Norman.
Present.
Ray Regalado.
Here.
Adrianita Reyes Cruz is excused. David Samperio. Don't see him. Adam Stevenson.
Here.
Angela Sumner.
Here.
Chris Valle.
Here.
And Gwen Henry is not, but what did your
Excused.
call have anything to do with that?
Yeah, she's excused.
Okay. So that is 11 present, so we do have a quorum.
Okay. So we'll go to agenda item number 2, general public comment on non-agenda items. Anyone like to raise their hand? And I see Victor, your hand is up.
2 things. One, some of you may have already gotten an email or heard about the SoCal gas, natural gas price spike. So if for anybody who hasn't heard about that, the January bill, if you haven't already gotten it, is supposed to be, I believe, 2 times, maybe 3, the same period of last year cost-wise because of the spike in natural gas costs. So just to hopefully reduce or prevent any sticker shock, be aware. Second thing is, if you have any of the home test kits for COVID-19, some of the expiration dates on them have been extended. And the way you can find out whether yours has been extended is to go out, well, the FDA put out a list, and it goes by the company that makes it, and then the lot number is how you figure out if you have the one that applies, or to find out whether you have an extension or not. Both of those items there are links to from our homepage. The first 2 items on the right-hand side covers those 2 items. So though that would be the place to get more details. If you don't already have the details, especially about the SoCal gas, because they do send out emails about that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Melanie, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was actually going to say something about the SoCal gas thing too, and Victor read my mind. Yeah, and it's a true thing because a friend of mine got her gas bill today, and it's normally $100, and it was $300. And my kids got their bill for their little tiny house that they're in, a 1-bedroom, and theirs went up like 3 times too. It's $200. So everybody, just so you don't have sticker shock, like Victor said, they're saying 126 to 150% increase.
Thank you, Melanie. Any other items, public comment? I see no hands up on the attendee side, so we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 3, which will be our homelessness liaison report. Lori?
Thank you. I was waiting to be unmuted. Happy New Year, board and attendee stakeholders. As usual, I'm always going to stress to contact LA HOP. However, I did deal with Melanie today and there was an issue with the LA HOP portal. So I'm looking into it to see what the problem is. So if you have something to report and you're finding an issue with the LA HOP portal, you can email the information to me and I will get it to the outreach teams that would normally call on them. Most of my issue this time, my report is dedicated to the Inside Safe program announced by our new Mayor Bass. I've copied and pasted most of the details there, but I also have a link to the program if you want to read more information. She is definitely trying to fast forward programs, cut through any bureaucracies, tying in with her emergency declaration on homelessness. The county is also declaring an emergency declaration. They're all trying to coordinate efforts, LA County, LA City, all the different entities that you see here on this. So obviously the goals are the same as they've always been, to reduce the loss of life on our streets, to increase mental health and substance abuse, eliminate street encampments, promote long-term housing stability for people experiencing homelessness, and enhance the safety and hygiene of neighborhoods. The city council members have been tasked with identifying or prioritizing encampments within their council districts. I'm not sure if Council Member McCosker is in this meeting. So I know he's going to be working on that. And I'm not sure if Jocelyn Dominguez is here too. So I won't say much more about this because she usually will want to report on this program. So we're all keeping an eye on it. It's already rolled out in Venice. That's the first area that they're sort of, I guess I'll say, piloting this program. So you could go ahead and scroll. So the second issue I want to talk about is the homeless count. The homeless count is in just a couple of weeks, on January 25th. We're very far behind on getting volunteers to sign up. As of today, I checked, there's 39 people signed up, and a couple of those are administrative people at the site. They have a max of 80, but they really, to be without taxing the people who are going to be there with running too many tracks, they really need about 60 people. So we definitely looking for about 20 more. I know several people on this board have signed up, and I ask you to please consider, if you are able to sign up and to share this information with other people to sign up. You don't have to be knowledgeable on homelessness. They'll train you. There's a phone app that's used. You can sign up with somebody else, be a team, but our resources for homelessness are based on the count, even though it's only a 1 day out of the year, and hopefully it won't be raining because that affects the count quite a bit. So please consider signing up. And if you have any questions or concerns about doing it, please reach out to me offline. I'd be glad to answer any questions about the count. I've done it for quite a few years. Also wanted to mention that we've been able to coordinate getting the Port Police, and I'm not sure, I think LAPD is involved too, and Harbor Interfaith. Basically, Wednesday, they're going to have their first meeting to try and coordinate their engagement efforts. This is so important. When you have an ordinance of 4118, you have law enforcement trying to adhere to that program. You've got outreach teams, you have mental health. And if they're all calling on the same people separately, you have a lot of conflicting information. And quite honestly, when law enforcement calls on encampments by themselves, it's quite frightening to the people, and they quite often will be service resistant to a law enforcement. So this is a really big step to get these groups coordinated and working together. And they said after this initial meeting, they'll let me know if they're going to let some of us neighborhood council and homelessness liaisons be involved at the table. So I will keep you posted, but I'm very hopeful on that. And then I just have a little bit of an update here just on the interim shelters. Nobody's on COVID quarantine, so that's good. The Redondo Beach pallet shelter, the Torrance pallet shelter, and I'm not sure about the Harbor, the Wilmington one, but for the most part, they've been full. It's been slow going in getting people matched up to housing. And so there's waiting lists at the pallet shelter. Soon as somebody is matched up with a voucher and housed, they'll put somebody else in those. There have been some vacancies at the interim housing. Due to the recent storms, I had announced last month about the winter shelter. They're very shorthanded. There's actually no winter shelters in the entire service planning area 8. So they were issuing vouchers through calling 211 for the last week. My boss and I have been scrambling, and Los has been scrambling because they're out of motels. So both supervisors in this area, SD2 and SD4, Janice Hahn and Holly Mitchell, are working diligently to try and get any type of properties, churches, hotels to open up. We've already, last week, we had 2 deaths from people out on the street, died because of the elements. So whatever we can do to get them off the streets. And that's pretty much my update. Now, if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. If I can take this opportunity, Lori, this isn't necessarily a homelessness issue yet, but it will lend to it. I wonder if we can maybe at some point get an update on how the eviction notices or moratoriums are, since they're coming to expire, how this might lead to a higher level or higher number of people going to the streets.
Sure. I spoke today with Jennifer Lamarcky from Janice Hahn's office, because I've been pushing for the last couple of months for them to step up and find a mechanism to outreach to people who are at risk. And so I've asked that they consider social media. They talked about doing some radio advertising, but more importantly, I asked them to do postcards to people at risk. The California Policy Lab out of UCLA has been running a pilot program to try and use the information from the type of programs people who might be at risk may be using, whether it be welfare, SSDI, and create a list of those people. And I've connected that to Janice Hahn's office to at least if they could do a mailing to those people, because the people most at risk are not aware that if they get a 5-day eviction notice and they don't do anything, they're in trouble. I'm also pushing, Ray, that they consider making it a mandate that if a landlord issues an eviction notice, that it's mandatory that eviction notice includes the tools, the resources where somebody can get assistance. Currently, they are shorthanded at Stay Housed LA on staff. They are short of lawyers now with all of the inner city law, BETSEDEC, all of those. So they're telling people to go to that power toolkit, which is on our website, for immediate assistance. So I'll try and put something together. It is of great concern. Jennifer said today there's a possibility the county one more time might extend the date, but I think if they do, I think it's going to be on a limited basis. really only, remember, these are only for people who didn't pay their rent because it was COVID related. So does that sort of address your concern?
Yeah, I just from my perspective, when I was working the dispute resolution program for the county, at that time, in the middle of the COVID pandemic, they had already had filings of up to 165,000 unlawful detainer cases that were going to be heard at some point. Now, I can only imagine that that number is higher now. And so it brings great concern to the fact that, you know, we might, an unlawful detainer is also another way of saying eviction proceedings. So
These aren't all unlawful, though. I mean,
no,
there's
no,
many.
no, that's just how they're referred to
I
in
see.
court cases. So this has nothing to do with how they're looked at. So I'm just saying that there was a lot then. My fear is that there's a lot now. So
Yeah,
it's something that we need to kind of keep a tab.
the
on.
county rent stabilization is another resource, but at the same time too, keeping in mind that there's property owners that are hurting, that there's still the California mortgage relief. And so I told Jennifer, she needs to include that information too. It's not just the tenants that are at risk, it's the property owners that are at risk of paying their mortgage.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Lori. Anyone else have any questions or comments for Lori for this agenda item? I do not see any hands at this time. Oh, okay. I think I do see a hand. Thomas?
Yeah, just not a question so much as just commending you, Lori, for when the website's down, we can go to you, being an incredible resource and advocate for San Pedro and the homelessness. Such a nice way to start the year, to hear this report and know that, you know, we can count on you and that our community counts on you. So thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. What's the homeless situation in Bulgaria?
And when I get back, I'll share. We are working with
Okay.
a group of Roma who are have been homeless, but in a very different way.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you guys all for letting me be of service. And like I said, outreach to me offline if you have more specific questions. Thank you.
And if I can just one last plug, people out there, we really need people to volunteer for the homeless count. Again, it's so important that we get accurate numbers so that we could get the our fair share of resources that are available. So please consider signing up for the homeless count coming up real soon. Lori, thank you very much. Okay, let's go ahead and go to agenda item number 4, which is our governmental elected public safety representation representatives for any kind of feedback. I see a couple individuals here who I recognize. I'm going to start off with Eric Ponce Burlos. I hope I said the last name right, from Assembly Member El Mursucci's office. Eric?
Eric, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Hello, Eric. I see your hand is up, Eric. Eric, can you unmute yourself?
He is unmuted, but we can't hear him. I'm gonna disable talking and then re-enable it and see if that does any good.
Okay.
Whoops, there he is. What the? Okay, let's. Yeah, I still can't hear you. Whoops, it looked like he might have dropped off.
maybe he'll call back in. Why don't we move to somebody else in the meantime? And I also, let's see, I see. Let's see, I did see Ron Reyes from Representative Lou's office.
Good evening, everyone. I don't really have a whole lot to report tonight. As you saw, last week was a little bit crazy. Everything is running. Nothing slowed us down. We continue to keep working forward. Well, we will have a list of a lot of the community project funding that came through, and we're going to start doing a little bit of press releases on that. So this is always something to look for each community for additional funding for sending out grants. And as we get closer to whatever that next round may be, that we'll talk some more on how to submit those and how that can help. So by releasing the list soon, will also, I think, help the community as well. So you can see what type of things were approved, maybe not just in our district, but throughout the area. And then our district has now changed. We are now California District 36 versus 33. The district lines are redrawn. I think that changes the San Pedro area just a little bit. We're going to move a little bit more into San Pedro. Then we just lost the top part of our district. That's really all we have to report from right now. Like I said, it's been a very busy start to the year, and great to be back.
Well, thank you very much, Ron, for the report, being here today. And I'll be honest with you, I don't blame Representative Lou for having that bag of popcorn.
Yeah, it was quite an event. It was interesting to see the behind the scenes, meaning just the coordination that it really takes, you know, on all sides to get something like this done.
Yeah.
But I sat there just like everybody else, not knowing, just like everybody else, late into the night. But I'm glad that we've moved forward on the next the 118th Congress.
Great. Thank you very much. And please thank the representative for us for sticking by all that.
We will. Thank you.
Take care. And I also see, let's see here, Sean Kearns. Sean?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Sean Kearns here from Congresswoman Nanette Barragan's office. As was just referenced, 4 days and 15 votes later, we finally have a new Speaker of the House. 118th Congress is officially underway. And with those new congressional district maps going into effect, all of San Pedro is now within Congresswoman Barragan's district. You may have also seen in the news that late last year, the Congresswoman was elected as chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. She had previously served in the position of vice chair. And with 9 new members and 42 members in total, this is going to be the largest Congressional Hispanic Caucus in history. So she's really excited to have the honor to be leading that going forth for the next couple of years. Also, we saw some major successes and wins come out of the federal funding bill that was passed just 2 days before Christmas. It included over $20 million for 15 community projects throughout California's 44th district. And some of those included funding to renovate and modernize the Harbor Interfaith Family Shelter here in San Pedro, as well as funding to purchase laboratory equipment, specifically for ocean-based STEM research that's going to be placed at the Alta-Sea campus and made available for students from local colleges that would otherwise lack that type of research space at their campus. There was more funding that includes development of new parks, expansion of health centers, building a new Boys and Girls Club, installing and charging infrastructure near the ports for battery electric trucks, and much more. Outside of the community projects, there were also significant increases for a number of critical federal programs, namely a $50 million increase for rental assistant vouchers to serve an extra 11,000 or more households, significant increasing for early detection of breast and cervical cancer, a $15 million increase for urban parks, and also the Children's Health Insurance Program. You know, a real key safety net program for low-income children and their families is going to be extended for another 2 years. So we're real excited with some of the wins that got secured within the budget. And, you know, looking at the work ahead in the next Congress, it's clearly going to be difficult for a number of Democrats and especially members of the Progressive Caucus like Congresswoman Barragan to, you know, achieve a number of the goals that we've been able to get through in this last Congress. But we do look forward to working on the issues that have bipartisan interests, namely looking at issues like cybersecurity, research for Alzheimer's and cancer, and then also ensuring that the funding that's coming down from the infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act, that it comes home to communities that need it most, like our harbor area. So those are the major updates I have for today. If anybody has any questions, glad to answer.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate you being here tonight. Let's see, do we have any other?
We may have a question.
Okay, okay, I do see Lori's hand up, and I know she probably does have a question.
And there was another hand besides that.
Is there? Okay.
Hi, thank you. Two things, Sean. One, maybe I misunderstood. You just said that Barragan has all of San Pedro. I thought Ron said that Lou had a little part of San Pedro. So just clarification there. And then as far as the housing vouchers, that's great that housing vouchers are coming along. But one of the biggest barriers to us matching up, getting people to use the vouchers is the vouchers do not include security deposit and application fees. And so the vouchers are issued to people and still they can't get matched up. So I'm just wondering if these federal vouchers will have any changes to them to try and get through some of those barriers and speed up the process.
Oh, thank you for the comments and questions, Lori. So, you know, some of those barriers that our unhoused neighbors and housing insecure neighbors are facing, we're actually trying to address through the federal bill. The Congresswoman had submitted specific language to try to reduce those barriers, specifically when it comes to like the documentation that people need in order to get into housing. We were able to get some report language specific with looking at ways that the U.S. Office of Government and Accountability can further study ways to minimize those barriers. But when it comes to a security deposit, I'll have to check with my colleague to see if there was any help that came through with this budget that could be related to that. And then regarding the change of district lines, from the map that I see, it looks like all of San Pedro is now included in California's 44th district. I know previously the northern portion of Northwest San Pedro was not, but it looks like it now is. They do sometimes cut out a couple of blocks, so there could be a small area that is not within it that I haven't been informed of.
Thank you.
You know, I see, let's see, I see a hand up from Eric. Eric, is that Eric Ponce? Is that from before, or did you have a comment you wanted to add? Or do we?
He's a city official or
No,
a
he-
government official, Ray. He just signed back on.
Yeah, okay, do we need to, should we go back to him?
Yeah, he has been allowed to speak.
Eric, I think we're still having some problems. All right, let's move on to, maybe this might be a question from individual identified as 38519.
Wow, I'm 38519. I thought I signed up as Tim McCosker. How you guys doing?
Oh, hey, Jim, that's you, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's how it came up.
Oh, that's interesting. I wondered why you hadn't called on me. That's exactly why. Yeah, so when I signed in, I put my name in, I put my email in. So I probably have to check with IT and make sure that they identify my computer as such. I'm in the San Pedro office, so I have a computer sitting on the desk in downtown LA, in San Pedro, in Watts, and in Wilmington. So I got to make sure they all line up properly. But thank you, Ray, for calling on me, and thank you everyone for having me speak. So Tim McCosker, we just hit week 4, and really glad to be back. We are back in council tomorrow. Tomorrow on council, we will be renewing, or I expect we will be renewing the mayor's emergency orders. Remember, every 30 days, the council has the opportunity to renew the orders, and I expect we will. And as Lori said, yes, we are working with the mayor, and the mayor's team is in Venice first, and I'm sure they made a strategic choice to go there. It makes sense to me. Looking forward to working with them in the 1-5. Let's see, on tomorrow's agenda, we'll also be renewing the prior mayor's orders on emergency orders on COVID. I expect that will pass as well. That is the set of orders that included what has been referred to in this conversation as the moratorium, the eviction moratorium, which will continue through this month. I think it will be important for us as a council, through our committee structure and through our body as a whole, to talk about the issues that surround, Ray, your question, what we're going to see as the moratorium rolls off, and what tenant outreach and protections for tenants and for just the entire system of housing. I do agree that we are, we are heading into an area where we need to make sure that we do not increase the crisis of homelessness. On other news, my council assignments, my committee assignments were made just late last week, early this week. We are putting together our schedules for my committees. I'm going to be the chair of a new committee called Personnel, Audits, and Hiring, which is going to really focus on the personnel system in the city of Los Angeles, and the work with the controller's office on auditing city systems. Looking forward to that. I'm also sitting on budget committee, which is I think terrific for the 1-5 for our district to have representation on the budget. I will be the vice chair of trade and tourism, which is important for hospitality throughout the region, but also really important to the port. And I'll be the vice chair of energy and environment, which will work with DWP and sanitation and work on the environmental issues that we all care so much about. And I also sit on public safety. I want to just highlight a couple of things. I expect to drop a motion tomorrow, making a reward for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of the shooters on the Peck Park shooting of earlier in the summer. LAPD has reached out to me and said that they need help with that, and so we'll drop that motion for the reward tomorrow if I get all the information put together, and I expect I will. I also wanted to give a quick report on something that involves a neighborhood issue here. The sign at the end of the 110 freeway, the advertising sign, had its lease expire by its own terms. I had a notice given to them that the lease will not be renewed or extended in any way, and I called on the company to demolish the sign, and gave them, as is typical, a little bit of time to respond. I've had initial meetings that have been very positive, and I will stay on it to see that we have that sign brought down. It will improve the attractiveness of that entrance to San Pedro. It also improves public safety. It's a a bit of a public safety problem to have that, blockage of view for folks that are at the park behind or folks that are coming off of the road. So those are a few things we're working on. I'm excited to be working for you all. I'm excited to get back to work and be in council tomorrow. Any questions?
Thank you, Tim. I'm glad that you're here and keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Well, I think we might have a couple questions here. I see a couple hands up. Chris Valle and then Melanie Lebrecq. I think you have questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. A comment and then a question. First of all, I think one of the first things we started talking about when I started the neighborhood council about 6 or 7 years ago now was that particular billboard. And I actually forgot that the year 2023 would actually show up someday, because I remember I was doing the arithmetic and thinking that would be the first time we would even be able to consider getting rid of that thing. And lo and behold, here we are. So that's good news. At least the calendar still works. And then just a little clarification. You mentioned the offering a reward for information leading to the arrest or conviction of the Peck Park shooters. Is it my understanding that the LAPD has or had prime suspects and then they were essentially uncooperative, or they didn't have enough evidence to move forward? Like, that is, they know who they're looking at, but they didn't really have anything else to act on?
I would be making it up, Chris, if I told you I know exactly what was going on in LAPD's mind. I got the request late this afternoon to make the reward, and I think it's worthwhile to do. And I will find out more as I finish the motion and speak to LAPD in the morning. But my guess is they're looking for more information to be able to present a case to the authorities and get a conviction. So that's a long way of saying I don't know exactly, and I don't want to misstate it. But we don't have justice served here yet, and so we're going to participate in a program to encourage somebody who knows to cooperate with LAPD.
Thanks very much.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris. Melanie?
Hey, Tim.
Hi.
Congrats. Glad to have you here. Couple things. One of the things is with the homeless, the moratorium thing, with the rent and all that coming up.
Yep.
We talked about one of the things that the city council needs to look at too, and thoughts that are running through. Earlier in public comment, we had the discussion about SoCal Gas and how big the bills are. I mean, people are seeing like triplicate in their bills, going from $100 to $300, from $50 to $200. And so my thought process is with this is there's going to be some families that are living paycheck to paycheck, and that type of increase is going to kill them. How are we going to make sure that these people are not going to be so far in debt that they can't pay their gas bill, and that it's going to get shut off on them, or they can't pay it, or are going to have to choose to eat or pay a gas bill?
Right. I think that it would make sense for us, given this recent notice that gas bills are going to triple, to look into in fact, I spoke to someone at Southern California Gas today and said I wanted them to come into my offices or council and explain to us what the programs are to assist those families that are kind of on the edge. It's similar to what we do at LADWP. If you have inability to pay, there's a program to be able to forego some payments, put them off, or even write them down depending upon the circumstances. And DWP is a different story because that is a municipal entity, but we need to use the franchise and look at Southern California Gas and make sure that there are such programs in place. May very well be, by the way, but the important thing is if they don't exist, make them exist, and if they do exist, which is likely, that people know about them. And it goes back to the issue that Lori was describing before. It's if there's a good program, if there's an opportunity to assist folks and they don't know about it, it's as bad as it not existing.
The other thing is, I want to, suggest something because of what I experienced today, is that San Pedro itself, because we're so far down at the 110, that we have a mental health unit for our area, that we have a mental health triage where you don't have to call LAPD. I can pick up the phone, there's a number I call and they're here. There's a mental health triage unit right here in San Pedro.
Right, and that's important for folks to know and to advertise, correct?
I don't want them to have to come from downtown LA or come from Long Beach. We need somebody here.
Okay, thank you. That makes perfect sense. I will also, I know you just jogged my memory. I also wanted to say that the frustration of not having a wet weather winter shelter anywhere nearby, and the frustration of not having vouchers available now because of the great use of them all this past week. It's really been difficult in our office. I personally and members of my staff spent a good part of the day trying to place people in shelter or through vouchers into hotels. And we are really experiencing a crisis right now. And at least one of the gentlemen I was personally helping was clearly having a mental episode and having difficulty that we just need more resources, and that'll be something I'll fight for going forward.
Thank you, Melanie. I see Dan's hand and then Victor, and then from there we'll move on to a couple hands that we have up with our attendees. So Dan, you want to go ahead?
Hi, Councilman. Congratulations. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Dan.
This is a bit of a decorum issue, I guess, or lack of decorum. Is there any strategy in place amongst your colleagues to deal with the virtually everyday disruption of the opening of meetings surrounding the question of the council member who is controversial?
Well, I will tell you what my answer was. I was asked by a member of the press today, how I was going to react, assuming this can occur on Tuesday and then again on Wednesday and on Friday. And the position that I'm going to take is that I said my piece, the individual should resign, but I don't have control over whether that person comes in or doesn't come in. And the job I just interviewed for 2 years is to the people of the 15th district. And if I have to choose between a strategy to stop a meeting or continuing to work for the people of the 15th district, I'm going to choose the latter. And so my hope and my sense is that we will be able to read our agendas, have our debates, conduct our business, take our votes, and get to the business of representing our constituents. I'm going to just keep coming back over and over and over again to my constituents and do my job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. And Victor?
One follow-up on the question of the assistance from SoCal Gas.
Yeah.
They do have, there was a press release put out recently that they tripled their contribution to the Gas Assistance Fund to help, customers impacted by historically high natural gas prices. And I haven't read that in detail, but I believe that is, it has to do with the qualifying households that can get that assistance. So there is something there. I don't know to what extent that helps everybody or how much that assistance is, but there is a fund there for that.
That's great. That's really helpful. Thank you. I think I would probably use Energy and the Environment or some other committee at council to give them a chance to talk about that. But in the meantime, I can also use city media, my social media, and encourage other folks to sort of put that out so our constituents know. So thank you for that. I'm not surprised, given that it's a state regulated utility.
Yeah, thank you. So let's go to our attendees. I see a couple of hands up. We'll start with Doug Eberhard, then Diana Nave. Doug?
Well, thank you, Ray. Good evening, Tim.
Hi,
And
Doug.
so I think you're perfectly positioned with your personnel audits and hiring for a couple of things. Number one is hiring.
Mhm.
Now, my daughter works at the LA Maritime Museum for Rec and Parks. They have been short-staffed for about 5 years. She has applied a year ago now to transfer to the library, been through the process, put on a list, and a year later has now been contacted to essentially start the process all over again.
Yeah.
Now, I would point out that there are days when the San Pedro branch is closed because they don't have staff. Now, given what Mayor Bass has said, urging people to apply to job for the city, maybe you could figure out why it takes a year or more to put a qualified person into a librarian position or at Rec and Parks or at any other department.
Right.
That's one thing.
Mhm.
Second thing, auditing. I would really like to see somebody take a very good hard look at the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment and the money they are spending, particularly on contracts right now for election outreach. They're handing out no bid, practically no oversight contracts to various entities to do outreach. I can tell you we have 1 week left for candidates to sign up to run for neighborhood councils down in the harbor area.
Mhm.
And I have seen zero outreach from the department or anybody else. The only people doing outreach to get candidates and maybe voters is going to be us out of our budget. And we're talking about a few $100,000 here.
Wow.
So I would urge you to get those things onto the agenda of your committee as soon as possible.
Great, thank you. I appreciate both of those comments. The numbers in almost every department across the board are really down. I mean, there are some departments that are 30% down on headcount, anywhere from 10 to 30% down, and it really affects service delivery. I mean, we have circumstances where there's funding for services that are, imperative services, sidewalks, streets, curbs, gutters, where the impediment is just finding bodies. And we can have two responses. One obvious one is to hire bodies in. The other one is to, come up with a workaround to make sure the work gets done while we're hiring bodies in. And that's a tougher conversation, but not impossible. And, one of the things, Doug, is that, personnel, I'm not making an excuse, I'm just making an explanation. Personnel is down too. That's one of the really, odd problems that they will cite to say that they don't have enough bodies to do this work. Well, there's a solution to that as well, besides hiring, figure out a way to get the work done and not have to do it inside personnel. I have a family member too, she's waiting, my daughter is waiting to become a firefighter in the city of LA, and 3 other jurisdictions now have made her offers because they were faster and better. And we're going to lose good people to other jurisdictions because they figured out how to hire. So we will get to the bottom of that. Thank you. And I will sit with the controller. I have a meeting coming up with the controller to kind of map out, audits and what we want to agendize and hopefully work cooperatively together. And I will definitely add Dunn to my list. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Diana, you're up next.
Thank you. And thanks for being here, Tim. I appreciate it. I was actually going to email this to you, but since you're here, I'll make the comment. And the reason, before I do that, the reason my hand was raised initially was because Pat has a couple of questions, but I'll make my comment first, which has to do with the graffiti removal on parks. One of the problems that we've become aware of is that Rec and Parks only allows their staff to remove graffiti. And because they're so short-staffed, the graffiti sits and sits and sits. There ought to be a way to allow the normal city graffiti removal process to be used at Rec and Parks rather than just relying on their staff. So, but that, I'll let Pat ask his questions.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I agree with that. I will say, this is kind of part admission. I actually went to an East Wilmington Gateway Park and brought a can of paint and did graffiti removal myself because it was the weekend. I knew I wouldn't get anybody to do it. And I had an event happening a few hours later. So I know your frustration. I feel it.
Yeah.
Tim, who's on the on the council committee that handles Harbor Commission issues. That's one, and then it has Mayor Bass appointed a liaison to the Harbor Commission. And if so, who is that?
Sure, thanks. Triple T is chaired by Councilmember Park. And then I'm the vice chair, and our third member is Hugo Soto Martinez. That's Trade, Travel, and Tourism. And I do not know, but I haven't heard that the liaison to the port has been named. But I wouldn't be the best person to speak on it. Maybe it has, and I don't know.
Thank you.
We can ask.
I hear some back talk there. Are you guys through with your questions, Diana or Pat? I guess they are. Okay. It appears that those are all the questions, Tim.
Eric's back on too.
Yeah, I see that. I was going to go back to Eric, but Tim, it's really a pleasure to have you here at our neighborhood council meeting, and thank you for taking all the questions. Thank you for the updates. I know your dedication to neighborhood councils. We're going to see you every month or hear from you every month. So thanks a lot. Right?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, I was trying to lobby there for your participation.
You'll have me on some knowable, foreseeable basis, and you'll have, as we staff up, you will certainly have the office with you. So
great, thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. And let me say that if there are any needs to utilize our neighborhood council social media platforms and website and things like that, please let us know, especially with this announcement with Pet Park. We'd be happy to also post whatever information you have on
thank
that.
you. When I have it in final, I will, I'm sure we'll put out a press release on it, and I'll shoot it over to you, and you guys can repost it. It'd be really helpful.
Yeah, we're always looking for content, and we're interested in being able to turn that around pretty quickly. Our viewership is growing pretty much weekly, and it's, you know, when we have more things to show people, it brings more people to the channel.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Earlier I saw Octaviano's hand up, but let's try Eric one more time. Hopefully we will be able to get him in. Eric? I have a...
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Eric, welcome.
Yes, third time's the charm. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Eric, Eric Ponce. I am a field representative with Assemblymember Almared Suchi, representing the 66th district, which goes from El Segundo by LAX down to San Pedro. I specifically cover the cities of Lomita, San Pedro, Gardena, and the El Camino Village area. And I just wanted to introduce myself and provide everyone with a legislative update. So the Assembly member is currently the chair of the Education Committee. He has also already introduced 4 bills in the legislature. The first one being AB 9, which is the California Global Warming Solutions Act. This is a reintroduction of last year's AB 2133 by Assemblymember Quirk, which would accelerate the existing 2030 greenhouse gas emission reduction target from 40% to 55% and below the 1990 levels. The second bill is AB 74, which is the street takeovers / racing. So the office is currently working with LAPD on the language for this bill. So if anybody would like to pitch in any ideas, we encourage giving our office a call, and I can go ahead and give everyone the phone number after my updates. The third bill that the Assembly member has introduced is AB 23, which is the theft and shoplifting. So this is a reintroduction of AB 1603, which would amend Prop 47 language by reducing the threshold amount for grand theft and shoplifting from 950 down to 400. So the Assembly member, what he's trying to tackle shoplifting. We've all seen the videos on CBS, Rite Aid, of just individuals taking everything and running away. So the Assembly member wants to tackle that. And the fourth bill is AB 2220, which is a reintroduction of last year's homeless courts pilot program. So the bill would expand on Redondo Beach's homeless courts program, which connects homeless individuals to wraparound services such as housing, job training, substance abuse treatment, etc. And so AB 2220 would be administered by the Judicial Council. It failed, well, it died in committee last year. So the Assembly members introducing it again this year. And yeah, I'm starting to get to know the community. I was at the San Pedro Holiday Parade last month with the Assembly member. Might have seen some of you. But yeah, I am here to serve as a liaison for San Pedro and the Assembly member, and I'll happily take any questions that you all may have.
You want to give us your contact information?
Oh, yes. So our office phone number is 310-375-0691. And again, that's 310-375-0691. And our district office is located near Del Amo Mall on Carson and Madrona.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for Eric? Okay, Chris, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I guess I was just sort of curious if there had been any discussions or if the Assembly member had any sort of ideas already on the drawing board about, in terms of these crime response legislation, what could possibly be done, at least coming down from the state level, to address these issues, which are usually, I mean, they're more or less spontaneous unless you're one of the people involved planning it. And it seems like the response part of it has been sort of difficult. That is, if a bunch of people come together very quickly and they're doing donuts or they're, stealing donuts, then is it a matter of response? Is it a matter of prevention? What is the sort of general direction the Assembly member thinks that we should be pushing? Because it seems like the sort of thing where literally physically chasing after people or whatever would be kind of closing the door after the horse bolts.
Right. So the Assembly member has introduced AB 23 as a way to sort of as a way to, it's sort of there has to be some sort of consequence, right? So AB 23 is trying to address that, and the Assembly member really believes that these shoplifters, they need to face the consequences, and by reducing the threshold amount, amending Prop 47, that's one way he believes in making these criminals face these consequences. I'm sorry, does that answer your question?
Well, sort of, yeah. That is, it seems like his approach is to sort of to make the criminal end of it more robust. And I guess my comment would be that, without addressing any of the underlying sort of economic or social pressures that bring people in those behaviors in the first place, I don't think that the people who are doing donuts in the middle of these, 4-lane intersections are worried about getting caught. And so what happens before they get caught, if they get caught, I'm not sure if that's much of a deterrent, or for the people who storm a retail location, they must know enough about it to not be super worried about getting caught. So, it may be some consideration of, I'm not sure what, but something on the front
Right.
end of it to, to talk to people who might be thinking about participating and stuff like that, rather than, putting additional penalties on people if they get caught, which doesn't seem to happen often enough. So
Right,
it's just,
right.
like a broad,
Right.
it's kind of a broad, almost a philosophical approach to.
Mhm. Yeah, and as for AB 74, the street takeovers racing bill, that one's currently still being worked on. So any ideas are happily welcome. And the assembly member is setting up meetings with nonprofits like Street Racing Kills in Lomita, and meetings with other community members to get their input as well. So this is all just barely in the works. The language is barely in the works.
Thank you.
Okay, I do not see any other hands up at this time. Eric, thanks a lot for being here, and thank you for being persistent in your attempts to.
Yeah, sure.
From you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We'll be looking forward to hearing from you in the future. I'm going to go ahead and move to, let's see. I think I saw Octaviano Rios' hand up earlier. Perhaps, Octaviano, would you like to give a report from the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment?
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy 2023. Happy to be here finally after a few weeks of what seemed to be a lot of fogginess with the holidays. But I hope everybody had a wonderful celebration with your loved ones. Again, my name is Octaviano. I'm with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. Have a pretty quick report here, relatively, but I did want to start off with highlighting some of your election information that might be me recycling it and repeating it, but I think it's worth doing to remind not just the board, but your stakeholders of the opportunity to serve on Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council. And of course, we're working closely with each of our neighborhood councils and inviting them to meet with us if they're interested. I know that Northwest is very advanced in their use of tools and outreach to promote your election. So thank you for doing some of those strategies, like placing a link on your homepage to elections. Believe it or not, some neighborhood councils haven't gotten that far. So I'm using you all as an example to promote that type of opportunity to place information on agendas, on your website, on your social media, to help spread the word for the opportunity to apply as a candidate. So just a reminder, the candidate filing period is started December 2nd. It ends in a few days, January 17th. And then we go into, and this is for Region 12, which you all are included in, of course. And then we go into vote by mail application period, which is January 31st to March 13th. And then election day is going to be Saturday, April 1st. So those are the big important dates. Just a reminder, the city clerk's elections division is the city agency that administers your elections. So any technical questions with regards to the running of your elections and candidate filing period, vote by mail application period should be directed to them. But as you know, always glad to connect you all to your election administrator. If you need help, or if I can answer some of those questions and save some time, I'll be more than happy to do that as well. So again, if you need some support, if you want me to attend, or one of our staff members that's directly involved with the citywide outreach component of the NC elections and our participation as a department, in contrast to what the city clerk's office does, let us know when that outreach committee meeting is, or if you want to do a one-on-one. I'm more than happy to also sit down with candidates if you feel there's some folks that may have heard it from you, but maybe it's worth their time to hear it from me as well as to what it is to be a board member and working with some of the supporting agencies for neighborhood councils. I'm open for that as well. So it's just a matter of letting me know folks' availability and their dates, and more than happy to plug that into my calendar. So thanks to Mr. Barbera. He actually brought this to my attention, and I didn't catch it on time, but I'm not sure if it was able to be moved anyways. But tonight was is the neighborhood council candidate information session, one of several, of course. So there's going to be a few more. I believe we had one already before this one. Tonight's started at 6. I think there's another one that starts at the next one is January 21st at 10 a.m. So if I can get a recording for folks, I'll send it over, and so you can share it around. And then we're also having the regional neighborhood council awareness and engagement workshops. They're mostly focused, each one to a specific region. For Region 12, it passed. But just a reminder of these are available for anybody, really, if you want to attend. If you missed the other one, they'll be focused on neighborhood councils in that area to hopefully create some synergy amongst them regionally if they want to collaborate. But the ideas are the same, and the sharing of information is the same. So I encourage you to attend those. And just the big two things to think about that, of course, you guys are all really good at is increasing participation in your meetings. That checks off the box to increase awareness of your neighborhood council and what you do and how you advocate and how you communicate your needs to City Hall. And number 2, promoting the participation in your elections for this season. So you have a lot of information already floating out there, so you're really ahead of the game relatively to other neighborhood councils. So thank you so much for spending time compiling and simplifying that messaging. It really does make a big difference. And of course, just a quick reminder, again, you're advanced, but just for those folks that haven't heard me say, some of the neighborhood council election tools that our department helps provide support and funding for is the Nextdoor public agency account, and the Canva Pro account. So the Nextdoor public agency account, of course, connects you with some of the subscribers within Nextdoor within your neighborhood council. And then the Canva Pro account helps you use those tools to create graphics, to create promotional material. And I was browsing through some of the templates that we had made already. Some of them from previous years, others are fresh. So there's over 72 templates out there for you guys to use. You can just cut and paste your name, your logo, and put it on there, and you don't have to really do any graphic design, even though it's a relatively easy app to use. If you're like me, any help is appreciated, and I think Anne Marie and others did a good job in putting together those flyers. So take advantage of that. And let's see, I think that I have some other incidentals that I wanted to share, but I didn't want to take up too much time. Oh, the CIS, the Community Impact Statement Dashboard Update. I don't think I shared this with you all last time, but if I did, I apologize again for repeating it. The department has a dashboard ready to go for our neighborhood councils to check out as to where they are in the number of filing of CISs. And you can also check out other neighborhood councils numbers as well. So you can kind of see where you are in the grand family of neighborhood councils, not necessarily to create competition, because every neighborhood council is different and they have their different priorities and different legislation they file and they want to influence through their community impact statements. But just to kind of get a bigger picture as to where everybody is with the filing of community impact statements. So check that out. I'll send you a link to that. It should be in your NC profiles from if it's not in this one, it's surely in the previous one. Of course, read your NC profiles, which has all that good information with regards to legislation, administrative, some of our meetings that are relevant to the system, et cetera. So I know it's a lot of information, but I think it's worth the time, at least once a month, to check that out. They go straight to your email. And if you're not getting your email, just take advantage of some of the housekeeping stuff. If you're not getting my emails or the department's emails, please reach out to me. Email me directly. We can update your email. We can check if we misspelled it, or if you want to consider changing your email to something just tailored to your neighborhood council, separated from your other Gmail or Yahoo accounts. We can also do that on our end. Just email me at octaviano.rios@lacity.org, octaviano.rios@lacity.org. And yeah, so Mr. Chair, that concludes my report, and I'll email you all a bit later. Thank you.
Thank you, Octaviano. And don't forget, some people still use Hotmail accounts too. So
that's right, or AOL. That's right. And I appreciate that. Thank you for mentioning it.
I see a hand up from Chris. Chris, do you have a question for Octaviano?
Yeah, well, first of all, that AOL accounts are now officially vintage, so that's just extra style points.
Very nice.
I like my AOL.
If the message comes and you read it, then technically it's as good as the rest of them. But Octaviano, I just want to emphasize that, well, first of all, personally, I got the Canva situation up and running, and it is very, very helpful. It is it's great if you want to put something that's professional looking, but you don't have an awful lot of time, and or there is some kind of a crunch. But please, send back up the line that it's definitely a worthwhile service to have. And I think there's a lot of neighborhood councils who probably could and would and will be doing more once they realize how powerful that is. It really is a great shortcut to kind of getting those things out there. So you don't either have to know much about it or have much time to sort of, put into the graphic design end of it, but you just simply plug the relevant information in there and post, and you're good to go. So it's very useful.
Thank you, Chris. I'll pass that along. Definitely nice to hear that it's something that we should continue supporting for our neighborhood council. So thank you, Chris.
So I do have a hand up with the number identified, the last three as 741. I'm not sure who you might be, but if you can give us your name, and we can, if you have a question for Octaviano, go right ahead.
No, hi, this is Patty Nagley. Good evening, everyone. I actually had a question for Tim. Is he still there?
I actually see his name still up here. So Tim, are you still with us? Hello, Tim.
He's muted at the moment, but he can talk once he unmutes.
Hello, this is Tim. Sorry, I was taking a call on the other line.
No problem.
Okay, hi.
Patty, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, hi. Hi, Tim, congratulations.
Thank you.
I am a volunteer at the Harbor Shelter. And when I was listening to you tell us what committees that you were appointed to, my heart started to beat very quickly when you started saying the chair of the personnel auditing, and I was expecting animal welfare there. And that is no longer part of this committee. And I'm wondering if you know where that sits.
Yes, it's no longer part of this committee. It was one of the things that the council president could do is reshape the committees. And he did do that. He created some new committees and he sort of regrouped things in what he thought were more logical places. And he took animal welfare, a very important issue, and put it into neighborhoods and community enrichment, which is a committee chaired by Eunices Hernandez. And John Lee is the vice chair, and Heather Hutt is a member of that committee. So animal welfare, or animals in the shelters, are in neighborhoods and community enrichment.
Okay, well, thank you for that information. Sorry, I'm sorry it's not under you with Harbor being in your district, but I'm glad to know that it hasn't disappeared.
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you for asking. And sorry, I stepped away from the computer for a moment, but thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye.
Okay, Patty, thank you for being here. I see a couple other hands up. I'm not sure who the questions will be directed to, but Lydia Grant, you're up.
Thank
Hello.
you. Got it. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm asking if I can be added as a panelist so that I can see the spelling of Miss Nagel's name. Thank you.
Vic, can you?
Yeah, he sent me.
Not there under her name.
It's on the way.
Okay, I
It's
see it.
under her phone number.
It looks like Lori also has a question,
Yeah,
and Octaviano.
I saw her name
Who's
earlier.
first?
So
It's there
unfortunately,
now under a name.
I'm sorry.
She's there now under her name,
Okay.
the name that she was looking for.
Okay, great. There it is. Okay, great. Let me see. Let's go to Lori. Lori, you have a question for Octaviano?
Actually, sorry, Octaviano, Happy New Year. This is for Councilmember McCosker. I just wanted to let you know, I reached out to Ronson Chu. He has some motel rooms set aside. So you said you were struggling with some 211 motel vouchers. You could contact him tonight or tomorrow, and possibly he could get somebody off the streets for you into a motel.
That's great news. I found some private funding and put somebody in tonight, but I will, if it's all right with you, I will call him first thing in the morning and see if we can get this gentleman in tomorrow night. Okay.
Absolutely. I'll let him know right now. Thank you.
Could you shoot me just remind me, shoot me his, I know you've given it before, shoot me his numbers like.
I'll send you both an email and connect you.
Thanks, Lori. That's great.
Thanks.
Really important work. Thank you.
Okay, Octaviano, your hand's still up. Any last words or a response to something?
Oh yeah, just in terms of the committee assignments, I know we have the honorable council member here, but just for our neighborhood councils, I know the department sent a copy of our city clerk's letter listing those committees and those assignments. It was a letter from the council council president, Paul Krikorian. So if you look in your email, and it was sent out on the 5th. So if you want to check that out, I know it's on lacity.org, but just in terms of saving you time, it should be in your inbox so you can check it out.
Great, thank you, Octaviano.
No problem.
Okay, I am not seeing any other hands up, but I do see Jocelyn Dominguez is in the list. Jocelyn, would you like to give an update from the mayor's office?
Yes, thank you, Ray. Hello, everyone. This is Jocelyn Dominguez, Harbor and Watts area representative for the office of Mayor Karen Bass. So a few updates, quite a few actually, so I apologize. But since the last time I joined you all, Mayor Bass did sign Executive Directive 2, which launched Inside Safe. So with Inside Safe, what it is basically just changing the way that we approach encampments so that we can approach them in a more proactive way where we're not, it's not a short-term solution, but something more long-term where we offer services immediately and move the folks inside. So I will be sending my updates over to you, Ray, to share with everyone. Okay. And I will have a link where folks can read more about. And also it does prioritize the sites that are the most at risk or high level crisis encampments. So as mentioned before, they have moved on to their second location in Venice. Another update that I did want to share with you all, also related to homelessness, is an update with LAHSA. So as you all know, the homeless count is quickly approaching. So they do have open registration for the homeless count if you want to register as a volunteer. San Pedro will be having its homeless count on January 25th. And they are in need of 80 volunteers. And so far, only 39 have registered. So if you are interested or know of any folks that might be interested, please share that information out with them so they can register. So again, it will be taking place on January 25th, and it does start at 8 p.m. Another update also with LAHSA, and I will be sending over the flyer for this one. This is the B7 Bridge Housing Program. So this is specifically for persons exiting the justice system institutions. So if someone is over the age of 18, is currently experiencing homelessness, and has just exited a justice institution system within the last 60 days, or if they're being held by the justice system, or like, you know, at a police station because they don't have any housing, and they are interested in this program, the referral form will be linked on the flyer for them to fill it out so that they can apply for that housing program. One update I did want to share with you all is that City Council did pass 210064, and this includes the prohibition of single-use carry-out bags at additional retail establishments, and the prohibition of the distribution and sale of expanded polystyrene. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, so I'm sorry, but also known as styrofoam. I do know that this does affect small businesses that have more than 26 or more full-time employees. And I believe that will be taking effect in starting April. So obviously this can be a big impact for small businesses or business owners. So LA Sanitation has created a program called the Reusable Foodware Micro Grant Program. So any small business that is interested can submit an application on their Google form so that they can be notified when that grant program does launch. And basically what this program is, they provide funding to assess the business and to see where more reusable foodware or items can be used in their business to make it easier for them to transition with this new motion in place. And that is all the updates for me, unless there's any questions.
Okay, thank you, Jocelyn. Yes, any other questions for Ms. Dominguez here from the mayor's office? Let's see, I don't see any hands up, Jocelyn, so thank you very much for your report. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
You
Have a
too.
good one. You too. Bye.
Okay, I do believe that might bring us to the end of our, well, let me see, is there anyone here representing law enforcement by any chance? If there are, can you raise your hand? And I don't.
I thought we had earlier, but I don't see his name.
Yeah, I thought I saw something earlier too.
No, there's no law enforcement LAPD here.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's go ahead and move on to our next, our next agenda item. Agenda item number 5, and that is presentation. And let me say that we did have 2 presentations scheduled for some quick information. Item B, Feed and Be Fed, was supposed to be here, but they were unable to attend, so we will hopefully get to see them at another time. And Rec and Parks was supposed to be here, Michael Signorelli, but he had a family event that he had to attend, so He did send out a website that I would like to share with you all, and this is for the Park Advisory Board that the Peck Park is trying to put together. Now, I believe in attending some meetings in and around this that park advisory boards are a group of community members who live in proximity to some of the parks who are designated as having these boards. Peck Park is one of them, and it would be nice if maybe we could find ourselves or community members interested in being able to join the Park Advisory Board. Let me share this website, and I will make sure that I get it to Chris so that perhaps maybe he could post it. It's www.laparks.org/volunteer/pab-agendas/2020. Now, I'm sure you all got that, so I'll say it quickly one more time. laparks.org/volunteer/pab-agendas/2020. We will have it listed, and this will talk a little bit about what park advisory boards are all about. It would be nice if we had someone from our neighborhood council who might consider being part of this. It's so that they get together and they talk about issues in and around specific park programming. And so I think it would behoove us that, since Peck Park is looking to establish a PAB, that we actually see if maybe one of our board members would consider being on that park advisory board. So with that, I'm going to go ahead, and that'll take care of agenda item number 5A for the Peck Park Advisory Board. We'll get Michael to come out and talk a little bit more about it and give you, the real scoop on this. I think it's a great program. I think it's something that as community members, we need to be part of this group and be making sure that the community's voice is heard as far as programming and so on for the park. So being that we should ask for public comment on these agenda items, for agenda item number 5 for the quick information on Peck Park Advisory Board, I'll take any comments or questions, and probably I won't be able to answer any questions. Thankfully, there are no hands up, so we'll go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, and it's our consent calendar. We have 2 items on our consent calendar. Item A is to approve the December 12th board and stakeholder meeting minutes, and item B is to remove Peter Roth, I hope I'm saying that right, from the Port Environmental and Sustainability Committee. Thomas, I see your hand up. Would you like to make a comment? Or would you like to make a motion?
Just getting ready to move approval.
So would you like to make a motion for to approve the consent calendar?
Yes, I would. So move that we approve the consent calendar for January.
Great. Do I hear a second?
I second.
That sounds like Chris.
It is.
Any discussion? No hands for discussion. Victor, would you like to take the roll count?
Okay, John Barbera,
Yes.
Vic Christensen, aye, Dan Dixon, Dan Dixon, you need to unmute. Okay, I'll come back. Craig Goldfarb.
Luckily, I'm not being muted again while I'm trying to vote or while I'm doing anything. It's up to the board member to mute themselves. And since I have a mic
is
that
your
I
vote?
balance out,
What is your vote?
Yeah.
I can vote when I feel like it.
What is your vote?
And so I would like to vote aye on this measure and would
Okay,
like
Melanie
to
LeBrecq?
like the protest being muted
Melanie LeBrecq.
by when it's not approved.
Aye.
Kaylee Miller,
Yes.
Thomas Norman,
Yes.
Ray Regalado,
Yes.
Adam Stevenson,
Yes.
Angela Sumner,
Yes.
and Chris Valle.
Yes.
Coming back for Dan Dixon.
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous. We have 11 ayes and that's it.
Great. Thank you all. Let's go ahead and move on to agenda item number 7. These are the motions under our committees, and we'll start off with budget and finance. Melanie, this is all for you.
Yay. So this is the MER, and this is not out of committee because I did not have it until this morning. Yeah, but anyway, the currently we have $31,086.84. We paid all the invoices for Bridge Gap, for the town hall, and then the other 2 meetings, and then virtual services for the mailroom, and that's all that's gone out. So do I have a motion for this since it's not out of committee?
So moved.
Who was that? Thomas?
So moved by Norman. Yeah.
And I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, so roll call vote. Thomas,
Aye.
John Barbera,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Ray,
Aye.
Dan Dixon,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Melanie, yes, Kelly,
Yes.
Angela,
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the budget. So this is the budget, and as you can see, it matches up. We've got 13, 10, 55 and unallocated. We have elections coming up and have money allocated for that. So this is out of committee. Any discussion? Okay, call for the vote. Thomas,
Aye.
John Barbera,
Aye.
Victor,
Aye.
Ray,
Aye.
Dan Dixon,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Melanie, Kelly,
Aye.
Angela,
Yes.
Chris Valle.
Yes.
Okay, next one is, this is a motion to reimburse John Barbera. He paid out of pocket for the election printing and poster of the map for outreach for elections. So it's a reimbursement of $98.54. This is out of committee, so any discussion? Thomas?
Just wanted to thank John for the work. I watched the impact of the work and thought it was very, very meaningful. So fully support this item.
Any more? Okay, call for the vote. Thomas?
Aye.
John, are you recusing?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm
Good.
refusing. Yes, I can't vote.
But you do need to turn off your video too.
Victor,
Aye.
Ray,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Melanie, yes, Kelly,
Yes.
Angela,
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Okay. Next item. So this item is for the canyon to replant the park. I went back and forth with Empower LA and with the city clerk and went back and forth in emails with Diana, the best way to do this because it's a city entity. If we were to do a beautification project, a community benefit, it would require insurance, permits, people waiving, you know, responsibility of the neighborhood council if they were going to help plant, all kinds of long involved stuff. They said the best bet for us to do this was to have a nonprofit do an MPG for us, get the plants and purchase them that way. And so that's the route that they've gone. So this is money to allocate it until we can do the MPG, get the MPG together. So this is for $765 for allocation of the money that will come out of outreach funds. So this is out of committee. So any discussion, Craig?
Yeah, I had a lot of problems with it because we don't have an MPG. And we don't have somebody to put in the MPG. So I didn't think it was appropriate to allocate the money on this motion. And I still don't because we need to see an MPG before allocation.
Right, it's allocates to just put it in a column like we do the newsletter or whatever, and then you still have to bring it back with the MPG and approve it. It's just is putting the money aside.
So this is not funding, this is allocation, and it will come back to the
Allocation,
board.
but not funding. This is just to put the money in a rat hole, so it doesn't.
I understand. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
my problem was because there was no MPG.
No, they have to, once the MPG, it has to come before the board again for the MPG.
Okay, and we'll be able to see the MPG. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. Okay, any more questions? All righty. So Thomas,
Aye.
John Barbera,
Aye.
Victor,
Aye.
Ray,
Yes.
Dan,
I'm with Bulgaria. Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Melanie, yes. Kelly,
Yes.
Angela,
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Okay. Now, this one. So let me scroll past here. So originally, our printing for Reed printing for our newsletters have cost us $850. This is our invoice. It's $1,374.74. They said that it was an increase in ink and paper costs that caused it to be increased. We sought out another place to get a estimate, and their estimate is $1,410.14. So in reality, yeah, this is good. The problem exists that we have $4,450 allocated for the newsletter. We are short $507.93. So this motion is to increase the budget for newsletter number 1 up by $507.93 to pay this invoice. This is out of committee. Any discussion? Chris?
We were aware of the increased cost before we ordered the
Nope.
run?
Nope.
It's So they took the job and then simply just gave us the number that they.
But it wouldn't have mattered anyway, because we have to have somebody print it. There's only 2 printing companies around.
Right, but I'm saying that we didn't, I mean, but when we went to submit the job, did they say, oh, okay, that's, all right.
Lori? There, Lori?
Yeah, I take ownership on this one. We've been using Reed printing for all the years that I was involved, for at least 10 years. They've never raised their rate in all this time. So I did not get a quote, just assuming that the rate was the same. And I went ahead and had the order placed. After doing research, did find out mostly it's the cost of paper that's gone up so much. So this was my bad in not getting a quote ahead of time. Just wasn't expecting the increase at this point. Also, once I saw there was an increase, I thought with us printing less quantity that it would even out, and it didn't. So my apologies to the board.
Okay, any more discussion? So call for the vote. Thomas?
Aye.
John Barbera?
Aye.
Vic?
Aye.
Ray?
Yes.
Dan Dixon?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Melanie, yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
So the next motion is to increase newsletter number 2 from $44.50 to $5,000. So we don't run into this for newsletter number 2. This is out of committee. Any discussion? Craig? Craig, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Before they put it into publishing, that they should check the price.
I've been assured that from Reed that this is the price for the next one too. So
I mean, it's
no, because he sent
it
me,
would behoove us to get quote.
right. He sent me a quote. I've got it in here.
Okay, I'm just so you don't get a surprise.
There's the quote right here.
Yeah, and the other thing is I was reading through some recent material that we got from Octaviano. It says that the newsletters have to be, the physical newsletter has to be approved by the board before it can be printed.
Okay. That's something that we'll have to go through outreach because they're the ones that do the newsletters. So
Yeah, no, I just saw it and I wanted to comment on it because I saw it in the stuff. Octaviano isn't on here, but yeah. Okay.
Thomas?
Yeah, just, regrettably, inflation's affecting things like paper and ink. Seeing you do have the quotes, I expect those will be honored. We have 2 options, it's the lower cost. So when we get to vote, I'll be in favor.
Chris?
Thanks. Yeah, I do see Octaviano still in attendance. So could you comment on that in terms of the, I mean, I know it's not directly pertinent to the issue of funding, which I support, but or maybe for comment after this motion, keep in mind that if you could clarify the situation in terms of editorial oversight from Dunn. But I suggest that we approve the increase in cost.
Would you like me to comment now, Chris?
Go ahead, Octaviano.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This is Octaviano with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. There's a high recommendation to provide the final draft for review by the city attorney's office in our department, of course, for general guidance. But for the board to approve it, it's case by case in terms of between neighborhood councils. I may have to come back to you with a more specific answer in terms of what our recommendations would be with regards to the actual content versus maybe general topics that would be included in your newsletter for approval. But if certainly if there isn't any in your bylaws or standing rules now, then that's something that maybe we can take a position on as a department as to what we would advise on.
So we're having, you're going to get back to us on the issue of board approval, but there is a sort of a standing recommendation to run this by both city attorney and Department of Neighborhood Empowerment?
That's correct. Yes. You know, as you may be familiar with, the role of neighborhood councils specifically is to communicate needs to City Hall directly, and newsletters, websites, social media take a role that may sometimes be considered advocacy, and so messaging has to be a little bit more specific and informational rather than advocacy style. So that's the reason that we recommend neighborhood councils consult with city attorney's office in reviewing newsletters and content.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori?
Yeah, thank you, Octaviano. I think, first of all, our newsletters have been pretty stellar in meeting all the requirements. This last one and the next one that coming up are extremely time sensitive because they're for the elections. So we're waiting for the candidate filings to close. We've got to get statements and pictures put out there so as many people know how to vote, how to get a ballot, read up on the candidates. So one of our concerns is the turnaround time if an approval is required. And like I said, we haven't had any issues, but I'd be glad to talk to you offline about this, Octaviano.
Sure thing. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Lori.
Okay, so call for the vote. Thomas?
Aye.
John Barbera?
Aye.
Vic?
Aye.
Ray?
Yes.
Dan?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Melanie, yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Okay, the next motion is to increase the grant allotment on the fiscal year budget 2022-23 from 3,000 to 8,000. This money would come out of the audio money that we have allocated and come out of outreach money. This is out of committee. Any discussion? That being said, Thomas?
Aye.
Thomas?
Sorry.
He said aye.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear it. John?
Yes.
Vic?
Aye.
Ray?
Yes.
Dan?
Aye.
Chris, or excuse me, Craig?
Aye.
Melanie, yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Okay, now, final thing is MPG applications. Start date is now, after this meeting. We'll get it published. No later than February 17th, they can apply online. If mailed, we have to receive it by the 23rd of February. It has to be post dated by the 23rd if mailed.
17th, not 23rd.
Or 17th of mailed, 23rd of emailed, excuse me. Decision will be announced at the Northwest Board meeting on the 13th of March, 2023. Application process. we're leaving it open to 501c3s, period, without being specific as to a specific criteria this time. They just have to benefit the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council area. And yeah, and then we'll go from there. So we've got the link for the application and then the address and then submit applications. So based on the dates and the criteria, this is at a committee and just up for vote for consent from everybody if there's no discussion. Chris?
Yeah, I think it sounds fine. Could you email me the bullet points of that? I'll post something quickly, or just like give me the boilerplate so I know exactly like what information to put in.
Okay, sounds good. Alrighty, so Thomas?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Nick?
Aye.
Ray?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Craig?
Abstain.
Okay. Melanie, yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
And Chris?
Yes.
Okay.
Melanie, since this doesn't have to do with money, Adam should be eligible to vote, correct?
Actually, no, because he hasn't done any of his training.
Right, but we're within the initial 60 days of when he was selected, so.
It has to do with funding, though. It's to do with the MPGs and funding. The application is all part of that.
Okay. I
Yeah.
thought it had to be direct, like approving money, not
no.
just.
No, it's a
Okay.
funding matter.
Okay.
So anyway, back to the agenda. That's it for budget and finance. A lot.
Thank you.
Sorry, you guys.
Thank you, Melanie. We're gonna go ahead to 7B, which is planning and land use. Diana?
Thank you. Good evening. You have three motions tonight from the Planning and Land Use Committee. Shall I put these up on the screen or are you putting them up, Melanie?
You're muted, Melanie.
I'm prepared to put them up if you.
You can put them up if you want. You seem to prefer to do that, so that's fine. I'll stop screen share for right now.
You need to upgrade me to a panelist to do it though.
Okay.
A co-host to do it. It says that the host has disabled this screen sharing. I think I have to be made a co-host to share. Maybe.
You should be one now.
You are one now, Diana. You should be able to.
Yep. Great, thank you. Great. So do you see it now? Okay.
We
So the
can
first,
see it, but we can see it, but you need to enlarge.
It needs to be enlarged, Diana.
and how do I do that?
Use the little hand at the top where it says Zoom. You put, there's like a hand or like
Down in the lower right-hand corner, there's, yeah, click on the plus. Yeah, there we go.
Got it.
Now minus.
But you also want to maximize that window so it fills up the entirety of your screen.
Right.
There you
Right.
go. Yeah, make that bigger.
There you go. When I make it bigger, you can't read all of it. Let's see.
Well,
There we go.
then we scroll.
Okay, so what you have before you is a letter to the council office and the port regarding the beautification of Pacific Avenue. The Joint Planning Committee has been discussing steps that we could take to improve the appearance of Pacific Avenue. And the first two steps that we've come up with are this proposed letter, and along with a walk that we would do to identify very specific problems address by address. So the letter outlines elements that we think should be considered in developing a beautification plan for this area, such as better wayfinding, signage, repair and maintenance of the streets and sidewalks, etc. It's directed to both the council office and to the port, and asks them to appoint a staff person to work with us in developing such a plan and in helping to identify potential resources for the implementation of the plan. It's been worded in such a way as to make some of the improvements potentially eligible for funding from the port. The next step is a walk along Pacific Avenue to make a specific list of improvements property by property. That walk is scheduled for February 4th at 9 a.m., leaving from Sirens. And that's being coordinated between the 3 neighborhood council, planning committees, the chamber, the bid, and the Bridge Cities Alliance, which is Mona and Leslie's group, that's been doing some of the current cleanup on Pacific. So the chamber and the bid are both copied on this letter. And the bid actually has some funds that might be able to be used for some improvements in the portion of Pacific that falls within their area. So we really want to go about this as a coordinated approach. So the draft letter was unanimously approved by the Northwest Planning Committee.
So
Question?
Diana, this is out of committee, so you're looking for any comment at this time, right? Diana?
Yeah. It's out of committee.
Okay.
Unanimously approved by the committee.
Okay. So any comment on this? I don't see any hands up. So, Vic, do you want to go ahead and take the vote count?
Okay. John Barbera,
Yes.
Vic Christensen, aye. Dan Dixon,
The atmospheric river has arrived tonight. Right now, I say aye.
Greg Goldfarb,
Aye.
Melanie LeBrecq,
Aye.
Kelly Miller,
Yes.
Thomas Norman,
Aye.
Ray Regalado,
Yes.
Adam Stevenson,
Yes.
Angela Sumner,
Yes.
Chris Valle.
Yes.
Okay, that's 11 ayes, unanimous.
Thank you. The next motion relates to the connectivity plan. As you're probably aware, funding of a waterfront connectivity plan was one of the recommendations of this board from the port's public access infrastructure funds. The port has engaged a consulting firm, SWA, and they have started work. We've been told that they will be coming out to the community soon for input. In the meantime, we thought that it was important to share some of our expectations for the plan with them. This proposed letter incorporates many suggestions that were included actually in the initial proposal that we sent to the port when we proposed the connectivity plan, as well as a few other ideas that were proposed by committee members. It emphasizes the need to not only connect the various parts of the waterfront to each other, but also to connect the community to the waterfront, and the need for a transportation system that has its own right-of-way, not one that is sharing the road with other cars. The letter ends by saying that we're looking forward to working with the consultants. This draft letter was unanimously approved by the committee.
Thank you, Diana. Any comments? Any questions? I do not see any hands. Vic, would you like to take the vote count?
Okay, John Barbera,
Yes.
Vic Christensen, aye. Dan Dixon,
Aye.
Greg Goldfarb,
Aye.
Melanie LeBrecq,
Aye.
Kelly Miller,
Yes.
Thomas Norman,
Aye.
Ray Regalado,
Yes.
Adam Stevenson,
Yes.
Angela Sumner,
Yes.
Chris Valle.
Yes.
That's 11 ayes. It's unanimous.
Thank you. The third motion relates to the North Gappy beautification project. For those of you who are new to this board, North Gappy used to be just dirt without even any curbs, gutters, or sidewalk, and certainly no green. It was just dirt. It was a dumping ground. This council submitted a proposal to the port for a greening project that was funded from the China Shipping Mitigation Funds. I think that was in about 2003. The first phase of the project resulted in the addition of the curbs, gutters, sidewalk, a multi-use pathway, and the plantings that you see today from Gatun to Westmont. This portion of the project was completed in 2009. Unfortunately, a number of the street trees have died or are dying. Counted today, 9 dead trees, about 5 more that look like they're in the process of dying. And I think there were 7 missing trees. The trees have been died and taken out. The port has known about this problem for quite some time. They did replace a few of the dead trees. Several months ago, we were told that they had consulted with the city's arborist to see if the trees are diseased. When asked about it again a couple months later, we were given the same answer. So the draft letter discusses the problem and the lack of responsiveness or solutions. The port is now ready to go out for bid on the second phase of the beautification project. This is the part that would go from Gatun, then go underneath the freeway and connect through the park and ride by the skate park to the path on North Pacific. So our letter asks that the tree situation be remediated immediately or at least concurrently with phase 2. It also asks the port to let us know the cause of the tree loss and the timeline and plan for replacing the trees. So the motion is to approve the letter. It was passed by the committee on a vote of 7 yes and 1 no vote.
Okay. Audit committee also, can we see if there's any, do we have any questions, comments on this item? We do have one hand and it's Angela. Angela?
Actually, my hand is unrelated, but you asked me to let you know when I need to leave the meeting and head into the airport, and I need to do that now. So thank you so much. Sorry to leave. Have a great night.
Thank you, Angela, for letting us know.
Thank you.
So I see no other hands up related to this specific item. So with that, can we go ahead and take a vote count, Vic?
Hey, John Barbera,
Yes.
Vic Christensen, aye. Dan Dixon,
Aye.
Craig Goldfarb,
Abstain.
Melanie LeBrecq,
Yes.
Kelly Miller,
Yes.
Thomas Norman,
Aye.
Ray Regalado,
Yes.
Adam Stevenson,
Yes.
Angela gone yet? Okay. Chris Valle,
Yes.
and that's 10 ayes, 1 abstention, so that carries. Sorry, 9 ayes, 1 extension.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. We'll go ahead with item 7C, Executive Committee, and this is just a continuation of if there's any interest by anyone in the board that might be interested in looking at being representative or being considered for representative for the Park Advisory Board. If you have an interest, can you raise your hand? If not, then we'll just continue this to the next agenda. Okay, I see 3 hands up. I'm gonna go ahead and go on down, making sure that this is interest and see what, or if it's just a comment. So, Melanie, your hand is up. Is it for interest?
Yeah, it's for interest. Since I've already been going to all the meetings anyway,
Okay,
might as well do it officially.
all right. Craig, also interest?
Interest.
Okay. So tell you what, we have 2 people interested. I thought I saw a 3rd hand, but I guess I was wrong here.
You did, but seeing I saw others were interested, I'm happy to let either of those 2 serve.
Okay, great, thank you. So what I'm gonna do at this particular point, I'll have a discussion with both individuals and see just how they're able to be commit their time, and then we'll make a decision at our next meeting. So I really appreciate both of you putting up your hands and have an interest in doing this. So we'll make that decision and confirm it at our next meeting in February. Thank you both. So Melanie, moving on to agenda item number 8. You are with the EVG
Yes.
working group. Any updates?
Right now, that's kind of, they're waiting in limbo as far as doing the presentations to the other neighborhood councils that were selected for the pilot program, and putting together the presentation to schedule it hopefully in February for so I'll have more information on the 19th.
Okay, on the meeting of the 19th.
Yep.
Okay. Any comment, questions on this agenda item? Okay, I don't see any hands up. Okay, so we'll more of a report next meeting on February 19th. Thank you, Melanie.
You're welcome.
Porch President's meeting. Mr. Norman, any update from your end?
No, I'll defer to yours. It's 5 in the morning, so you probably have better recollection than I do.
I honestly, I don't have a report on this one here at this time, so I'll make a commitment that we make sure that I have something more substantial in this meeting, next meeting. So we'll go ahead and move this to the next month. Committee reports, budget and finance. Melanie, any
Vic's hands up.
I'm sorry, I didn't know I was muted, or I muted myself. So anyway, Vic, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If we could go back just for clarification on number 8, the EVG meeting. Melanie, you said the next meeting was on the 19th?
The EVG meeting, yes, is on the 19th.
Okay, then that will not be covered at our next meeting, because our February meeting happens before the 19th.
No, the 19th of January.
Oh, January. I thought you meant February. Okay.
No.
All right, ignore me.
Okay, goofball. So for budget and finance, so a couple of things. I reached out to the chairs for the budget advocate. We have no report other than this, because of just all motions that we covered. And I got no response from the two chairs that I'm aware of, Glenn Bailey. Kay Hartman is the vice chair, and then there's Jennifer Goody. I reached out to all three of them and emailed them regarding the situation for Region 12 for budget advocates. Craig and I have been appointed budget reps for our neighborhood council. Budget reps go to budget day, and budget day is where budget advocates are voted on by other budget reps in the region. Only budget reps can vote, and only budget reps can be made into budget advocates. So the situation with the budget advocates, I never got a response, but as I went online and looked through their website, it looks like they have like 15 vacancies of budget advocates out of 36. So that's concerning to me. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure. We haven't seen a report this fiscal year from them at all. So Ray, I don't have an answer for you. I'm really troubled by it though, and I'm going to reach out to Jack and also to the other woman that used to be in charge and ask them now, because the chairs aren't responding.
Look, if you need any follow-up from my side, let me know and I'll be happy to do that. But I really appreciate the information, because this is good information.
It's concerning, and normally when there's that many vacancies, being a budget advocate before for like 5 years, they usually hold it, and Craig can verify this, that many vacancies, they usually hold a special election.
Yeah.
And none of that has happened.
So if you would be so kind as to make the inquiry, and let's find out what's going on with that, why there's so many vacancies.
Okay.
And if there is need, definitely contact me, and then maybe at a future bonk meeting, I could make sure that we put it on the agenda, or I could make mention of it when we
So
have.
a question for you, Ray, with the creation of the new budget tribunes, has this caused this to happen?
Not that I'm aware of. It's just another group of individuals, as I understand it.
Well, they were budget
another-
advocates before, a lot of these people.
It was an opportunity for others to get involved in the budget. For a lack of a better term, a budget advocacy role for the city. So I just want to say that they had there were others that wanted to be involved, and that's what the reason the tribunes were created. It didn't seem to me that they were doing it, in competition of.
Okay.
But more in I don't want to say in partnership, but also another advocacy voice. So that's the way I've seen it. I've taken it. It doesn't look like they're actually, trying to compete with each other. Craig, I see your hand up.
Yeah, the childish behavior of one of the hosts of continuously muting me is continuing. The other group, I think, was basically in opposition, that they didn't feel that they were getting the response from the budget advocates, and they weren't proceeding is what they wanted. I haven't had any contact from any of those groups in a while, and I'll reach out to the people I know, because I know quite a few of them, including Glenn Bailey, and see what's going on. I have a feeling that the process has stalled, and I'll give a report at the next meeting, or show up to Budget and Finance and give a report there.
That would be great, Craig. Between the both of you guys, I'm sure we'll get some answers. Thank you for that. And for both of you, I'd like to thank you for looking into this in a little bit deeper. Thank you so much. It's an important group of individuals, and they, as budget advocates, they provided a good service to question and advocate for certain budget items. So
The other thing, Ray, that was on my agenda for under here was discussion of possible action to appoint a city budget ad hoc committee. That you said that came from Diana. So if Diana would want to elaborate why, because normally something like this would be done in budget and finance, or an ad hoc budget and finance type thing for city budget things, or
well,
something. So,
I just wanted to make sure that we were through with item number 1, and then we could
yeah,
talk a little bit more about the a budget ad hoc committee concern or a question. So are we through with this item?
yes,
With
yes,
number
yes.
1? Okay. All right. So we have a plan for this. Both of you guys will make inquiries.
Yep.
So there was a request, moving on to item number, well, let me ask, any questions on this agenda item? Any concerns, questions, thoughts? I know we've gotten some good input from both Melanie and Craig. I don't see any hands, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to item number 2 under budget and finance reports. Diana, would you want to talk a little bit about your thoughts on this?
Sure. This actually kind of grew out of a discussion we had at the joint committee meeting. We were talking about the lack of adequate traffic enforcement. And one of the problems was the lack of staffing for that division within LAPD. And we were thinking, well, maybe we'd want to advocate for that. And so as we started talking about it, we thought, you know, one of the ways to do that would be through the budget advocate process. And then thinking about it more, it seemed like, you know, various committees may have priorities that have come up that they would like to see us advocating for, and that it might be helpful to have a group that had members of different committees to get together and talk about what are the things that we want our advocates advocating for. We've never done that in the past, but we thought it might be a helpful thing to do. So that was the idea.
So Melanie, I'd like to ask you, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think it would work. I think the only problem is an advocacy group cannot make motions. They have to have a group, a committee that they're like the advocacy group of to send to make those motions. An advocacy group cannot make motions.
An ad hoc committee can make motions.
No, it cannot. It cannot. It has to, because it
That's
not,
fine
it's not a one of the 7 committees that is assigned according to our bylaws. We looked at it when we had the public safety ad hoc and found out that we couldn't make a motion based on our bylaws. It had to be one of the standard committees to make a motion.
Well, look, this is the way I kind of was looking at this, is that an ad hoc could certainly go to the proper committee and advocate or work with in partnership with a particular committee. So I really don't see how this could be a real problem or.
Right, well, that's what I was gonna say, is what you could do is whoever is like, say it's a public safety thing, or say it's a planning and land use thing, that whoever that representative is takes it back to their committee and has the motion come out of their committee.
So Craig, I see your hand up. Would like to weigh in?
Yeah, I mean, this is having an ad hoc committee. Ad hoc committees for specific purposes to achieve specific goals. It's like, okay, when you're planning like something at the park and you do an ad hoc committee, it's specific and it's time limited and that's it. And it's appointed. So the ad hoc committee is an inappropriate thing. We have a budget and finance committee. you can, everybody's allowed to go to those meetings. You can advocate there. You also can also talk to the budget reps who can go and talk to the go to the budget advocates, or you can also go to the budget advocates. And as far as I know, when the budget advocates have meetings, they're open meetings, so anybody can go in and chime in. So you know, I don't see the purpose of this other than to make another just to confound the process.
I kind of agree with Craig. He makes sense that if people have budget concerns, that's what the budget reps are for, as well as the budget and finance. That you're supposed to come to budget and finance more than the expenses of the group. Come to them if you have budgetary concerns that need to be addressed. That's where the budget CISs should come out of.
Diana, do you have a response?
Well, no, we potentially will have a motion coming out of planning. I don't know that we will, but potentially coming out of planning. And it would just seemed like it might be useful to have, as Craig has talked about, a very limited, time-limited, very directed committee that looked across the various committees to see if there were others that had things that they wanted the budget advocates to address. Otherwise, we can do it just on a shotgun approach, but it seemed like a coordinated approach might make more sense. That was all.
Diana, let me ask you, is there a specific area that you feel this ad hoc committee could look at? You know, maybe take a specific aim?
The idea was basically to ask the various committees if there were things that in the city budget that we wanted to direct our budget reps to be advocating for. Now we can just do that by we could do it from planning and come up with our recommendations and just take it to the board. I don't have any problem doing that. I just was feeling like maybe other committees might want to participate in a more joint process. So.
What about doing a special budget and finance committee meeting just for that purpose? And invite everybody to come to that to discuss just that.
Thoughts, Diana?
A possibility. I think that might do it. You have a meeting specifically on that topic? Sure.
Okay, then it seems like we're looking all in possibly the same direction. Melanie, would you put that special meeting together and making sure that it's focused on the budget questions that
yes. We can do that.
Okay, I see a hand up with Dan. Dan, would you like to?
Quick question. When is budget day this year?
Not until, excuse me, June.
Oh, June. Okay. I'm thinking of a long-term project to ask the advocates to speak for. Thank you.
So my question will be, thank you for that, Dan. My question will be, will there be a special meeting prior to our next, our February board meeting?
If you want one, yes. If everybody would be ready for one, I can schedule it within the next couple of weeks.
If I may, I'd suggest we wait like a month to give committees a chance to discuss among themselves to see if there are other recommendations that come out of other committees.
Okay.
Then if I could just make sure that there is clarity that each committee will be looking at the, you know, the outcomes that you're looking for, that perhaps maybe Diana or Melanie or Craig, you know, it just a quick line or two to all the committees so that they could make sure that, you know, they have like an assignment between now and
yeah, I can send an email out and just to everybody's telling them to pick, because I'll send the dates that we can pick to make sure they work for everybody too, for the special meeting, and also an email saying, be thinking about city budget things that you think that we need to address.
yeah, I just want to make sure that both Craig and Diana weigh in on this, on the language and the need.
Okay,
All right. Okay.
sounds good.
Diana, you're good with this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Craig, you're okay with this?
If I don't get muted again, I'm fine.
So, okay, so we'll be looking for an update, I guess, by our next meeting as far as this particular effort. Thank you. Thank all three of you for this. Okay, any other comment from the audience? I see no hands up, so okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on to Melanie, Public Safety Report.
CPAB was dark
Okay,
this last meeting, so no report.
no report, okay. Okay, let's go.
Can I make a comment?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we didn't have a public safety, any officers here, but I was concerned about letting people know our neighborhood has had at least 6 houses broken into in the last 6 weeks. And in addition to that, we know of at least one more attempted break-in and a break-in that was right down by Craig and Ray's house, which is very close to our neighborhood, which makes 7. I just want to make people aware there's something happening.
Yeah,
And
there was one on our
very, very careful.
There's one on our street too. So something's going on. And I hate to say this, but I have to direct some concerns to LAPD because our SLO just hasn't been present or available. And I had something that happened today and I was told to contact our SLO and he's not accessible. His phone's off. He's not returning emails and I'm really concerned.
He's on maternity leave or paternity leave.
I see some hands up, Thomas and then Craig.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up because I've noticed an increase in activity at Holy Trinity Church. The number of break-ins has really increased in the last 3 months. Are becoming a regular occurrence, and getting more dangerous in terms of hazardous bodily fluids, blood, people defecating, urinating, and in spaces that children would occupy. So that's troubling. My own house was vandalized when I was out of town for a week. So there's 2 bits of graffiti where the McCosker sign used to be. They got used to taking that sign and now they've gone on to writing on the house, contacted the graffiti hotline. They don't have paint to match there, but reported that. And I'm not finding folks as, even that process wasn't as responsive as we'd like. So I just wanted to add some information publicly on concerns. And I do have a question, if anyone knows, if someone's on maternity leave in other roles I've had, then that responsibility goes to someone else. You just don't have anyone on the job. So do we know who the replacement person is to contact?
That's my concern too, Thomas. And what it is he didn't take his full paternity leave. He didn't get to take it. So what's happening is he's taking it 4 days here, 4 days here, 3 days here, 4 days here, 4 days here, 3 days here. And so that caused, and we never know. So that's the problem.
Thank you. Craig, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think people need to be aware that, people aren't just, this comes from my awareness of what happened. People are scoping out these houses for being broken into. They're noticing the times when people are there. They know everything. So you need to be aware, and you need to be aware of who's in your neighborhood. And if you see people sitting around and things like that. I mean, I'm planning on going to public safety and having to talk with them about things. And I will talk to Melanie about because I don't think I'm really allowed to discuss the one that happened across the street from me. But these are not, there are people around that are seeing what's happening in your neighborhood. And we need to be aware, because if they're breaking in, they know that you're there or you're not. So somebody's watching. A lot of times this is neighborhood, these are people in the neighborhood, the kids or stuff like that. So be aware. I mean, I have a lot of cameras on my house, and I have lights, etc., that are controlled, the motion sensors. So and regardless of that, my next door neighbor was broken into. A lot of people, as you were saying, have been broken into. But you know, this also goes to what we were discussing about police patrolling neighborhoods and traffic and stuff like that. I mean, I fail to see how a house so near me could get broken into when the police are coming up and down a channel on such a regular basis. But it happens. So we need to really have a discussion on this.
Thank you, Craig. Chris, I see your hand up.
Yes, I have just two basic recommendations. Craig touched on it already. Wi-Fi enabled cameras that record either to the cloud or internally are relatively cheap. They're relatively easy to set up. If you own your own place, you have a lot more latitude on where you put them, but it's a good investment if you consider that versus your time spent investigating a break-in or your deductibles, if you have homeowners insurance, things like that. So do a little bit of research on kind of DIY video surveillance. So if something, I mean, a perpetrator may see the camera and move on to an easier target, or if they don't, then you may have at least a little bit of visual evidence that'll help the police identify people. And the other recommendation I would make is, if you're trying to get any sort of answers or response out of Harbor Division, go in person to talk to the desk sergeant. It makes it harder for them to transfer you to somebody. There will be somebody there when the lobby is unlocked. So it's honestly, it's a little easier to surprise them. And I would sort of press them for whoever else is next in line if their assigned SLO is not available. And that would be somebody, or they would essentially be forced to choose someone to whom you should refer. So it's relative to the time it would take you on the phone to maybe not get a satisfactory answer, just taking a little trip down there. It would be a lot more efficient in terms of any kind of forward motion on that. And of course, coming in person, I think tends to make more of an impression than the huge number of calls that they get and just kind of wash over them. So that's what I did, and that's what I would recommend doing.
Thank you. If I could just weigh in, give my kind of 2 cents on this. There have been needs at certain points to call LAPD for a response to certain actions or certain items that occur. And it appears that there is a real reluctance, or there's a real need for LAPD to respond in timely manners, because I recall there was this one time I made a report and LAPD, even this was a break-in, in my interpretation, someone was breaking into a house right at this point. I called my observation, and it wasn't until 35 minutes later that a police officer showed up. 35 minutes. And this was a burglary in process, the way it appeared to me. And it's things that I'm finding out from more and more people, that there is I don't want to say reluctance, but that's the way I feel, that there might be a reluctance for LAPD to respond timely when things are actually happening and going down, which brings to mind that perhaps maybe we really do need to take the time to strategically look at our relationship with LAPD as the neighborhood council, as a community, and ask for them to meet with us and talk specifically about this problem. Now, I'm sure they're going to say they're understaffed, or they don't, a whole bunch of different things, but as a community, maybe we need to be able to look at this as how do we address this in partnership with them, or maybe an old organizing thing is that the more people involved in the meeting or with the concern, the louder the voices, and perhaps maybe we should take an inventory with the other neighborhood councils to see if they're experiencing the same thing with break-ins and things like that, and combining a meeting with the other neighborhood councils. So just a thought. I'll leave it to you all as the experts. I see some hands that went up. I saw John, Melanie, and then Dan. John, you're up. Melanie, and then Dan.
Okay, so I will give you a quick scenario. As you all know, I'm VP of building maintenance, building administrator over at the Assistance League. So with that, I got a call about a month and a half ago at 8:20, and I respond to the call. So I go there, and of course I don't see anything at all. So I was there went around the building, drove around a couple of times, parked and looked inside and this and that. And I called, and they told me that they dispatched at 8:25, the police, Harbor PD. So I'm there now 45 minutes. Nobody showed up. So I ended up calling Paul Ulmer, and he happened to be over at the Elks Lodge. So I said, hey, Paul, we had a call in, and that the alarm went off at the gift shop, or at the post office, I'm sorry. So he goes, okay, let me find out. So then he comes back to me in 10 minutes and he goes, yeah. He goes, they were a lot of, they know about it, but they didn't dispatch anybody because, it's no big deal. It's nothing. Nobody was getting hurt, or nobody was getting killed, or, this was the answer I got. So I guess they could have broken in and then just taken everything they wanted to from the post office over there. And, but because it wasn't nothing serious. And like I said, at that time, I was there an hour and they never showed up. But a week and a half later, I got a bill for $314 for a false alarm. So go figure.
Thank you, John. Melanie?
Yeah, just on what you were talking about, Ray, about response and stuff like that, just real briefly, synopsis of what happened today. I come home from taking my mom to the doctor. I pull into my driveway. My elderly mom is with me in the car. Somebody that was experiencing a mental breakdown blocked me in my car and would not let me out of my car, and was hitting my car and screaming and cussing and everything, and would not let me out of my car. And it took Ted and my next door neighbor to be able to get us out of the vehicle. I called 911. They never came. I called the station to find out why. They said they canceled the call and they don't know why.
Thank you, Melanie. Dan?
Wow, this is a lot. It occurred to me during this discussion, I wonder if a similar bulge in burglaries of this type have occurred anywhere in RPV across Western Avenue. It might be useful to know, because if we can involve the sheriff's department in this, at least speaking to LAPD about it, it might bear some fruit if that's the case. To me, the logical, horrifying end of all this is, at some point, somebody's going to be burgling a house. The owner will come home unexpectedly, and somebody's going to get hurt, or worse. And the episodes we're hearing here go to the heart of what it is to live in a civilized society, ruled by law, with codes of decorum that have gone on for a long time, all of which are being questioned, rightly so. Some yes, some no. But we begin to feel like the commonweal, the thing that glues us all together is beginning to come apart, is fraying at the seams. So if we, as a neighborhood council, can work, as has been discussed tonight, and moving forward to try to re-engage the attention of LAPD on our behalf, I think it would behoove us all to do that. But I do think we ought to check on whether this increase in burglaries is happening elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, so next steps.
Next steps, public safety. We've got a big agenda item to take. Do you want a letter? Do you think a letter is needed?
It depends on what that, it depends on what that letter is going to say, honestly.
I think maybe a letter saying how concerned we are about our area, you know, and that we need, you know, how concerned we are, and that as a neighborhood council, there's been an increase in break-ins and incidents happening, and representing our stakeholders, they deserve more than this. They deserve to have some sort of action plan or some sort of more attention to what's going on here. At some point too, I think public safety needs to work with some of these neighborhood watches to get people up to par about how to protect their homes. You know,
So if I can just mention this, I have a lot of confidence that our community is very much interested in this type of subject. My concern is that sometimes the individuals who want action sometimes kind of dive off the high dive, you know, and expect to make a big splash by complaining and not having a plan or an expectation as to what it is that you want from a letter or from an inquiry. So I'm going to suggest that if we're moving in that direction, that we have all our ducks in a row and make sure we have action items we want, and we have expectations that we would hope that they would fulfill, and not just the regular kind of, you know, we don't have the staffing right now.
Right.
We need to really, again, we don't want to point fingers. We want to work in concert and in partnership with them.
Right.
And if necessary, what is it, you know, what are those steps are going to be? But we do expect a change. I see some hands again. I'll call them in the order that I saw them pop up. Chris, Craig, and Dan.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's time for us to kind of, well, I mean, you know, for want of a better term, to organize, but when we had the town halls about the two town halls that we've had in the last year, part of the goal of those was to build a conversational rapport, level of trust, respect between Harbor and our stakeholders, for the sake of things like this, that when we came to them with serious concern, that we weren't just individually coming to them complain about our own backyards, but there would be groups of people who were kind of more or less moving in lockstep with a shared concern that could and should be taken seriously, and also with a demonstration that we're willing to do more than simply talk to them about it. So I think now is where we take it up a notch and invite and re-include all the people who were sort of part of that before on our end of it. But, you know, in addition, get broader political support from business leaders, you know, local elected officials or whatever, people that you can't simply say we're understaffed to, like you can't say that to CD15, you can't say that to, you know, whomever else, especially if there's quite a lot of them. And so don't wait for it to be your house or your neighbor's house, you know, understand that now is the time to do what we said we should do at those meetings, is that this is when you have to push harder, because we know in our discovery for the Peck Park meeting, we know what the entropy and the lack of momentum is in these public agencies. So we know how hard we have to push, and now it's just really time to do that.
So Ray, what would you say? I'm in the process of scheduling the ad hoc meeting for update for the town hall thing, to put a whole package together. What would happen if this be part of that to continue on to have this be part of that?
My first instinct is we're talking about a specific incident that occurred at Peck Park, and that should have had follow-up, and that should have outcomes related to that.
Right.
And now, we're seeing that in a related issue with all these break-ins, attempts in break-ins, the lack of response and things like that, that seems like it's kind of more of an umbrella issue that we need to also address. But what I do want to I want to emphasize that we cannot let grass grow under our feet. If we're going to do something, we got to do it timely, we got to do it quickly, and we have to have a timeline in place and follow that timeline.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just goes nowhere, because all the entities feel that the interest was lost. And
Well,
I
they know
that's
that
not the case.
they know they can wait us out if we wait for us to not be so mad.
It's to their advantage to wait us out. You're absolutely right, Chris. Craig, you had your hand up, and then Dan.
Yeah, I think we need to look at this in different approaches. One is what we can do to inform our neighbors about public safety and what they can do. The other portion would be what's going on with public safety. I mean, we haven't had the captain come to our meeting in forever. And maybe we should say, hey, we're concerned. We would like you to come to our meeting, explain to us why we're getting all these break-ins in our neighborhoods. And what are you doing about it? We can go to the CPAB meeting, but as Melanie can tell you, they sort of hand it off and they sort of answer you and they move on. And you don't, unless you push your thumb on them, the slows will do what they do. But I think I'm not seeing the responsiveness from LAPD on issues in our neighborhoods over the last few years. And that discussion that we had was in land use and planning was about traffic issues. How many times have you seen people running stoplights, stop signs, etc.? And this is, again, even though it's the traffic bureau, there's police in our neighborhood, and they don't, what do they see their role as versus what we see their role as? And every time you ask that question with and when you go to CPAB and stuff like that, they see their role a lot differently than we do. And I think our expectations on this issue would change. And that was why the budget and finance thing is. Are you putting your money, are you doing patrol officers? Are you having regular officers and they're going in these areas and they're not taking care of this area and we're getting out of control? Is the budget money put in the appropriate places, and are you looking at the appropriate things? Is it, I mean, when I go to the CPAB meeting, they're all for putting in these what do you call license plate cameras. And I can see them doing it. I just think it has a lot of privacy issues to it. But the thing is how is that going to stop crime in our area? And the real thing is, if people see police officers in your neighborhoods, they are less likely to commit crimes in those neighborhoods. And I used to have a traffic cop across the street from my house multiple times a year. And I'm sure that stopped crime, but I don't, and it stopped people from running the stop sign more or less. But I think what we're seeing is a general, nobody's nobody's there. The window's broken and they know it's broken. So, I think we need to look at, one is, working with our public safety committee, and maybe putting together some really specific things like the stuff that Chris said about, and about cameras and how you can get this stuff addressed. And maybe we need to do something so not only do we hear from the police what goes on, but maybe we need to start looking at maybe putting on our website, if there's a crime happening, if you've seen some crime happening in your area, they can report to us and let us know so that we know where it's happening. Because when I see the CPAB reports, we're not seeing it. We're seeing, they're telling us, oh, you left your car doors open or you didn't lock your car doors, and they rarely tell us, or there's these little crimes and stuff like that. But there's obvious things happening and there has to be some follow-up on it. Done.
Thank you, Craig. Dan?
I want to 100% endorse everything Craig just said. And I want to say this before I forget it by 9:30, because I will. I think the opening sentence of any of this and all the things we're talking about, putting those together and approaching the city about it, and LAPD about it, begins with this. The response times, the behavior of our local LAPD representatives in no way comports with the historic excellent service that they have provided us in this area and many, many other areas. And I think I want to start by appealing to their vanity a little bit and their pride and just say, this isn't you guys. This isn't how we are used to having it done. We want to know from you what is keeping you from doing what you need to be doing to protect all the neighborhoods you serve, every single one. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I think we probably are all in agreement that there is room for improvement in this whole area of local law enforcement. What those things might be is really something that I think we have, and it was stated once before. We have our ideas of what it would look like, and LAPD probably has their ideas of what it should look like. So I'd like to suggest that Melanie, public safety, really, really needs to start thinking strategically about how we're going to address this need. It's no longer just attending a CPAB meeting any longer. It's organizing our own meetings with them and having heart-to-heart conversations with them. And we got to do it sooner than later. You're muted, Melanie.
I invite anybody else on the board, even if you aren't appointed to Public Safety Committee, you can attend the meeting and give ideas and give input. I welcome it. I encourage it. It's all our community. All of us live here. And it's important for all of us, to help each, especially when it comes down to public safety.
So, Melanie, it truly appears that the list of things that need to get done through public safety is really important. That there needs to be some focus in there. And I think I'm going to weigh that, and when I start making a decision as to who's going to be looking at that CPAP question too in it. So it or not the CPAP, I'm sorry, the police advisory board or park advisory board, type issue. And I got a request also that John wants to be considered for the park advisory board thing. But I really see that we have some really heavy work involved very quickly for our public safety people, and we need to get that thing resolved. The we need to finish up what we started with Pet Park, and now we're emerging in this new area of enforcement and response times and things like that. So I'll leave it up to you, and perhaps, you know, Craig had some great points, you know, maybe coming up with a plan on this area and putting it together.
Sounds good.
Okay. And it's really something that's quite important, I believe. So please, you know, maybe give us periodic updates, you know, by email to you know, a group. I don't want to violate any
Brown Act.
Brown Act things, but I think, you know, we're looking at an emerging urgency, you know, in our need for.
Oh, I agree. And
So-
after what happened today too, and everything going on, and then hearing about the break-ins down the street.
Yeah, absolutely. So please, you and Craig, look at this and come up with a plan. And let's start figuring out how we're going to put this plan into place. And remember, we want action items out of this stuff. We
Okay.
don't want to advise them. We want them to act.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. With your permission, I'd like to move on. Great discussion. This is the stuff that really excites me, and I'm sure it would excite the community, knowing that, you know, this is the kind of important stuff that their neighborhood council is doing. So with your permission, I'd like to move on.
Yep.
It's after 9, and I'm sure everyone would like to you know, have a drink or get by the fireplace or whatever it is that you all do to warm up. And so let's move on with the agenda. Item C on this area, bylaws and elections committee report. John, anything you'd like to share when it comes to, I know we've had a lot of discussion today about elections. Anything else you want to add to this?
No, not really. We have, you know, we have quite a few, some new people putting in the different areas. So those of you that are going to run, I just say, you know, please put your stuff in, get in there, because the 17th is not far away. It's actually, as of tomorrow, it's going to be 7 days away. So, you know, I think we got some good candidates, some new people, but, you know, for those that want to get back to it, you know, you need to put in. So that's it for right now.
Okay, John, thank you. Any comment? I do not see any hands going up, so we'll move on to the next agenda item and for the report. Executive committee, we talked a little bit about the the park advisory board, and then also the work that we do to bring this this meeting together with the issues that are brought to our attention to put on the agenda. So I'll leave it at that, just for the essence of time. Youth and outreach, anything, Chris?
No, we were on vacation on the 26th of last month, so we'll circle back in February.
Okay, great. Planning and land use, Diana?
Yeah, I just wanted to call your attention to a couple of things that are in the notes from our joint committee meeting. The first one was that we had a representative from, or the head of Altus came, gave an overview of their programs and their $20 million restoration of the buildings that's going to start in January, February, and last for 18 months. Second thing was that we had an extensive discussion about the lack of traffic enforcement. You may want to, people are interested, may want to look at that discussion. We also had, there's also in the notes a number of updates on development projects, including what's happening with the PAIP. And the last thing I wanted to mention was that Peck Park, we've actually started doing some planting already up there. If anyone's interested in helping us, let us know. We had some plants that were donated that we're planting now, and having to weed now that the rain has come. And then there are walks now on the third Wednesday of every month at 9 a.m., leaving from the lower parking lot. And then on the fourth Saturday at 9 a.m. Alan Franz is going to start leading a nature walk every fourth Saturday at 9 a.m., also leaving from the lower parking lot. The next joint committee meeting is on the 25th, and the city is going to be talking to us about the application of how they're changing our zoning to implement the new zoning code. So that will be a very interesting discussion. That's it.
Thank you, Diana. And Diana, I'm gonna kind of give you kudos by kind of starting this conversation about your ad hoc committee and framing it in and around kind of public safety. So thank you for that. I really appreciate the forethought on this. Community Issues Committee, Dan?
We probably intended to take the Christmas, New Year's week off, but we had a couple of issues we thought we needed to discuss in a timely manner, but on second thought, maybe not. We want to work, the committee has agreed for the past few months, we want to work on working with the city to develop monies to rebuild Peck Park Pool. It's part of the great panorama of Peck Park. It's something that should not be allowed to continue to languish, but it's clearly a multi-million-dollar, multi-year project, which probably won't have the benefit of a $10 million infusion from the China shipping settlement that came to the Hay Rookie Pool further down Gaffey. So we do want to work with the city, Rec and Parks, other entities to see if we can begin to put together a package to finance it. So it may be something that our budget advocates can give us a hand with at their meeting in June. I don't know if it's appropriate, but we'll talk about it. The defense fuel supply point, the underground tanks on Gaffey, which are 100% for sure, completely filled with concrete. They will never be used again. We are developing a letter to the Navy, or a communication with the Navy, about what we feel is appropriate that might be housed there on the property, but even more importantly, what we cannot abide having there. That's a letter we'll be ready with for our next board meeting, I hope. The dying, we had the question of dying trees on Gaffey on our agenda, but planning and land use handled that excellently. So that came off of ours. However, there will be further questions about dying trees on other streets, including Westmont. And that'll be coming up from us probably in the next month. There was some discussion of the frustration being heard from stakeholders about the rerouting of dash lines into residential neighborhoods in our neighborhood council area, and also how the moving of dash lines has really hurt certain stakeholders who depended on the existing bus lines to get around town. Dealing with LADOT and Metro in any capacity is a David and Goliath proposition of the first magnitude, but we want to keep it on our radar and stay in touch with these people and pass along stakeholder concerns as we receive them. There's some other issues about parking on Park Western Drive. Those are things we'll be looking at later this month at our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see Craig's hand up. Craig, you have a comment or an observation?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Dan and John to take up, UCLA is taking over the Loyola Marymount campus. Can you make an outreach to them and find out what's going on, and possibly let the board know? And I think that's going to have a new impact on the community. So, though I welcome you know, being a UCLA fan, I welcome them being in town. And I think there's a lot of positive and we can get a lot of positive benefit from it. But I think now that it's in the beginning stages, we could have, it's a good point to interact with them.
Greg, you are absolutely right. John, we will put that on the agenda, and particularly with reference to the former Marymount facilities on PV Drive North, the dorm housing there, the duplex dorm housing, which will be much more utilized, I'm sure, as UCLA takes over. Great point, Craig. Thank you. We will do that.
Melanie,
Thanks.
has your hand up?
Yeah, Dan, as far as the pool, that's one of the things that should be brought to that special meeting. Regarding
Definitely.
the city budget things.
Yes.
That's one of the projects that we, for the special meeting thing, should be working on. That and the traffic thing and all of that. Those are the type of things that need to come to that. The other thing I wanted to let you know is the RVs on Westmont. I was told there's a team being put together with the mental health and outreach and all of that that's going to soon. They won't tell me the date, but they said soon they're going up there and addressing the RV problem up there. But they're going up as a team up there with mental health and outreach and LAPD and all of that is going up there.
Thank you. I hope they'll be addressing the real problem and not just addressing envelopes. That's great. Thank you, Melanie. And I'll get with you on that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Port and Environment and Sustainability Committee. Thomas, you still with us? Still awake?
Yep, still here. Had dropped off a couple times the connection, but it seems clear now. Short report from Port Environmental Sustainability. We had a well-attended meeting in December. We didn't have any action items, as you can tell from the lack of report. The main thing I wanted to bring to your attention from co-chair, one of her pet projects working with the outreach committee is the spring emergency preparation, Wildfest, EcoFest. They're still working on a date, but they're narrowing down the weeks, probably the latter 2 weeks of April or first week of May 2023. If people have ideas for participants or vendors, please send them to me or to Gwen. And then for the coming meeting, we'll continue discussion of things like PIP, review of port projects, trying to get Mike Galvin to come address the group. We had Augie for a short time the previous meeting. So just to continue to improve our relationship with the ports and making sure Northwest San Pedro is getting its fair share of the benefits, the programs that they offer.
Thank you, Thomas. Any questions, any comments? I see no hands, so we'll move on to the Christensen Science Center Ad Hoc Committee. Vic?
No report.
No report. And Hank, Melanie, anything? No report. Liaisons, LADWP Dan or Public Works, Chris?
None.
None. Dan? None? Okay. Any announcements? Wait a minute, I do see a hand up. Ellen? I see your hand up. Sorry, I almost missed it.
No, I just put it up. And,
oh, good. Okay.
And unmuted myself. I'd just like to quickly announce that if the weather gods smile on us, next Monday is the Martin Luther King holiday, and every Monday at the White Point Nature Preserve, which is another Los Angeles city park down at the end of Western that many of you I think are familiar with, but we have a community service volunteer day, and we've been in recent years getting upwards of 100 people down there involved in a variety of projects, and would welcome people to come down if again the weather permits, which looks iffy at this point, but there are activities from planting to sorting seeds to sorting through the display materials and so forth. And organizing the children's library and whatnot. So at any rate, we'll cross our fingers and hope that it's a beautiful day, and hope to see you down there if that is the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Dan, you have your hand up, comment? Yeah, and you're muted.
The host muted me. Alan, what time is that event, please?
Sorry about that.
That's not you.
It's 9 to 12 o'clock.
Great, thank you.
Terrific. Okay, any other comments or anything, anything for a future agenda items? If you don't have it now, then make sure we hear about it before our next executive board meeting so we can put it on the agenda. I'm seeing no hands or anything, so I'd just like to announce that our next meeting will be February 13th at 6 o'clock. I hope we all stay safe and stay healthy until then and beyond. And thank you very much for being here. And without objection, I'd like to call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take
Good
care,
night,
everyone.
everybody.
Good
Night,
night.
everyone.
Good night.
Good night.